Sun Yukai let out a laugh as he reached out to grab Wang Lin's shoulder and said, "Let's not talk about her anymore. Brother Ma, there is a transfer array to enter the ravine just ahead." Wang Lin's shoulder moved to dodge the hand. He said, "That is good. Let's quickly go so we can enter the valley sooner." With that, he flew forward. Sun Yotsai's hand hit empty air. But his expression didn't change as he asked, "Brother Ma, did you come out by yourself this time?" He casually followed Wang Lin. Wang Lin sneered, but his expression didn't show any abnormality as he answered, "That's right, I'm the only one that came this time." Sun Yukai let out a laugh and whispered, "I guess Brother Ma secretly left the sect and came to the ravine to get some technique jades. I heard that in 3 months, it will be the War God Shrine's 5 palace competition. At that time, Brother Ma can use them to become famous." Wang Lin faintly smiled but didn't say a word. Seeing Wang Lin's reaction, Sun Yukai sneered, "Little brat, it doesn't matter if what you say is true or false. Since you've met your grandfather today, consider yourself unlucky. I'll use your body to make a puppet. I believe that Li Qiqing won't be too on guard against you." He was thinking this, but to ensure that everything would go as planned, he took out a jade before Wang Lin and said, "Brother Ma, I'll call a friend over. He is very close. When he gets here, we can go through the transfer array together. That way we can save a spirit stone." There was memory of a transfer array in Ma Yang's memory. It cost a spirit stone to open the transfer array, and every time it opened, it could transfer up to 3 people. So there was no issue with Sun Yotsai's suggestion. After seeing Wang Lin nodding his head, Sun Yukai placed the jade on his forehead and threw it into the air. After a few flashes of light, the jade disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin followed Sun Yukai. As they flew, he noticed that the farther they went, the more deserted it got. There were more and more big and small volcanoes around them. Some of the volcanoes spat out black smoke. Afraid that Wang Lin would become suspicious, Sun Yukai quickly explained, "Don't worry, Brother Ma. The transfer array is not far away. I don't know what has been going on recently, but all of the volcanoes have been releasing black smoke. I remember that the 4 great sects' nascent soul ancestors just finished sealing them last year." Wang Lin's expression became cold as he laughed. "Yes, this place is indeed deserted. A very good place. Especially these volcanoes. After killing someone, you can just toss their body into them. That will save yourself from using a fireball technique." Sun Yotsai's body suddenly stopped. He forced a smile and said, "Brother Ma." Before he even finished speaking, sounds of wind and thunder came in from the distance along with a black sword. In the blink of an eye, the sword arrived near them. When the light dissipated, it revealed a skinny middle-aged man. His eyes revealed a ruthless light. This person was wearing all black. Even the flying sword under his feet emitted a black light. Both of his hands were covered in black smoke. He didn't even look at Wang Lin as he said to Sun Yukai, "He is the fat sheep?" Wang Lin looked at him and noticed that this person's cultivation level was higher than Sun Yotsai's. This person had already reached the pseudo-core formation stage and could compete with Li Qiqing. Sun Yotsai's face suddenly smiled like a flower. His voice sounded like he was trying to please the person as he said, "Senior Marshal Brother, it is him. I saw that girl, Li Muwen, and her brother Li Qiqing have a good impression of him. If we turn him into a puppet and use him to approach them, we might have a better chance." The black-clothed man turned his head toward Wang Lin. He was surprised that Wang Lin didn't run away. Wang Lin was only a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, so he didn't think of Wang Lin as a threat at all as he coldly said, "Brat, you can die now." With that, the flying sword under his feet shot out toward Wang Lin's chest. At the same time, the black-clothed man jumped forward and clapped his hand a few times. The black mist spread out, forming a giant skull. It quickly followed the black sword toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He didn't even mind the mist or the flying sword as he pointed his finger at the middle-aged man and said, "Destroy!" The moment the G-Realm appeared, the sky darkened. The moment the G-Realm Divine Sense appeared, the soul was destroyed. Wang Lin was invincible among foundation establishment cultivators. If he reaches the core formation stage, he will be the king of core formation cultivators. If he reaches the nascent soul stage, then he will be the #1 cultivator under the soul formation stage in countless countries. The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly bulged out. He could feel that his soul was hit by a powerful destructive force. He didn't have any power to resist, so his soul instantly shattered. When he revealed a look of fear, he had already died. His body then went limp. Even until his death, he still didn't understand how it all happened. Everything happened too quickly. The flying sword didn't even travel half the distance to its destination when the divine sense from the middle-aged man broke, and it fell from the sky. The black skull followed behind it and slowly dissipated with the death of the middle-aged man. Wang Lin waved his sleeves and the black flying sword quickly flew into his hand. He slapped his bag of holding and the piece of metal came out. "Devour that black mist." After saying those words, Wang Lin no longer paid any attention to it and turned to Sun Yukai, who was completely dumbfounded. A flash of red light appeared on the piece of metal as the devil came out and jumped on the black mist. He didn't stop to consider whether or not he could even devour or digest the black cloud as he devoured it with a bitter smile. He didn't dare to disobey Wang Lin as he knew how scary Wang Lin was. Sun Yukai finally realized what was going on as he took a few steps back. He quickly jumped to the ground and disappeared. The devil's eyes turned and he slowed down on devouring the black mist. He was pretending to still be devouring. However, Wang Lin's next sentence caused him to frown again. "Follow me." With that, Wang Lin's body moved and his G-realm divine sense quickly spread out. He chased northwest. The devil revealed a struggling expression as he backed up instead of charging forward. Suddenly, he let out a miserable scream as green gas appeared on his body, causing him to not dare to hesitate anymore. Wang Lin retrieved the divine sense he used to punish the devil and focused on chasing Sun Yukai. He was very interested in Sun Yotsai's speed. He knew that his own speed was lacking compared to Sun Yotsai's, just like with the middle-aged woman who could travel 10,000 kilometers in 2 breaths. If someone like that wanted to kill him, he wouldn't even be able to run. When Sun Yukai caught up to him before, he was already using his full speed, so it showed how fast Sun Yukai was. Therefore, Wang Lin didn't kill him. He decided to catch him alive to get the technique out of him. Sun Yukai was scared now. Ever since he started cultivating 30 years ago, since he was a 15th layer Qi condensation cultivator, he had been killing people. But he had always been very careful and only killed people weaker than him. He never dared to kill people stronger than him. Over the years, he used all of the treasures he had found and traded them at the Ravine workshop for pills to increase his cultivation level. This caused his cultivation level to continue to rise, but as his cultivation level increased, normal pills lost their effect. High-quality pills were either hard to find or the prices were too high, so he set his sights on the Luohe sect. The Luohe sect was famous for formations and alchemy, especially when it came to pills. If the pill was refined by the Luohe sect, then it must be a high-quality pill. Sun Yotsai's target was the Luohe sect's Li Muan. He wanted to get some pills or pill recipes from her. But her older brother Li Qiqing's cultivation level was a step above his at pseudo-core formation. Completely above him, who had just entered the late stage of foundation establishment. The current Sun Yukai wished his speed could be even faster. Even now, his mind was recalling the terrifying moment from before. Fourth senior apprentice brother was a pseudo-core formation cultivator, yet he was so easily killed. If that Ma Liang had used some powerful treasure, then he wouldn't be so scared. But he didn't even see the shadow of a magic treasure. He only heard Ma Liang say the word destroy, and fourth senior apprentice brother just died. What kind of technique is that? Thinking about this, Sun Yukai couldn't help but feel his skull go numb. The more he couldn't understand, the more terrified he was. What cultivation level would you need to be able to kill a pseudo-core formation cultivator with just one word? Could it be that Ma Liang had already reached the core formation stage? No. Sun Yukai quickly rejected the idea because he had met core formation cultivators before. Even if the core formation elders were to fight a pseudo-core formation cultivator, it wouldn't be this easy. Although they would win for sure, they couldn't just kill them with one word like it was some sort of heavenly decree. Sun Yotsai's heart trembled. Could it be a nascent soul cultivator? But he soon rejected this idea as well. He had seen a nascent soul cultivator act before. It was when the demon sect ancestor killed a late-stage foundation establishment traitor. In front of everyone's eyes, he only threw out a sword and the traitor died while running away. He didn't even have any chance to dodge or resist. But still, in his eyes, when he compared Wang Lin killing a pseudo-core formation cultivator with just a word to the nascent soul elder who used a flying sword, it was clear who was stronger. With that, his mind suddenly went blank. Could it be that he is soul formation? When Sun Yukai said the words soul formation, all of the strength left his body. The more he thought about it, the more accurate it felt. Sun Yukai bittered muttered, "A soul formation expert. That is someone of legends. How is it possible? But if not soul formation, how could he kill fourth senior apprentice brother with just one word? Rumor has it that soul formation cultivators can control the ways of the heavens, so killing a pseudo-core formation cultivator with one word would make sense. I am being hunted by a soul formation expert." Sun Yotsai's body trembled as he escaped underground. The fear was making him feel like he couldn't even breathe. Just at this moment, he felt the ground before him warm up and he secretly complained. This earth escape move was an amazing technique anywhere else, but here in Hofun, where there were many volcanoes, there were some serious restrictions. If he accidentally tunneled into lava, then he could only blame himself. Normally, when Sun Yukai runs, he identifies the direction and immediately changes direction when he feels heat. But now, he believed that he was being chased by a soul formation expert. He didn't pay attention and now it was too late. All he could do was use all his might to raise his body up. With a loud bang, his body bursted out from underground into a cave inside a volcano. A wave of heat immediately hit him, causing his hair and eyebrows to immediately curl. He let out a scream as he quickly threw out his flying sword and moved onto a rock. After just these few moments in the heat, his skin was already cracking and his clothes were instantly turned to dust. Even the flying sword under his feet had turned red, and its temperature kept on increasing. The moment sweat appeared on Sun Yotsai's body, every drop turned into white vapor. Looking at him now, his entire body was surrounded by this white vapor. Although he was naked, there was still a hint of a divine being. Below him was a large pool of lava. There were many large bubbles in the pool, and every time one burst, black gas would rise up. Sun Yukai was able to bite the bullet and rush through to the other side of the volcano before he stopped in place as he looked at the lava below him with a look of terror. At this moment, Wang Lin had caught up. He didn't know the earth escape technique, but his divine sense had been locked onto Sun Yukai the whole time. He suddenly noticed that Sun Yukai had stopped, so he took out the piece of metal and pointed at the ground. The metal spun as it hit the ground and dug a tunnel. Wang Lin's body quickly followed and entered the lava pool Sun Yukai was at. The moment he entered the volcano, Wang Lin noticed Sun Yukai, who was staring at the lava below in terror. Wang Lin followed Sun Yotsai's gaze into the lava and saw triangle-shaped eyes. Wang Lin took a deep breath and backed out of the tunnel. He hid, not moving an inch, and stared at the eyes. According to Ma Liang's memories from when he grew up as a kid, there was no creature in Hofun that lived inside a volcano. If there was, then it would be impossible for them not to be found by the cultivators of Hofun. It has to be said that every few years, the ancestors of the four great sects seal the volcanoes for safety. At the same time, Sun Yukai seemed to be possessed as he stared at the eyes. He got off the flying sword and stepped onto the rock with his bare feet. The moment his feet touched the rock, the smell of burning flesh spread out. He only took 3 steps before his flesh and skin were completely burned off, revealing bones that had been burnt black. However, Sun Yukai didn't reveal any look of suffering as he jumped into the lava from the edge of the rock. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his hand reached out. The moment Sun Yukai started falling, he grabbed Sun Yotsai's bag and then quickly backed away without even looking back at the lava. A roar came from behind Wang Lin and the heat in the area suddenly intensified. As Wang Lin ran, the tunnel around him turned red. If someone were to look from above, they would see that all of the big and small volcanoes were spewing black smoke, especially one of the large volcanoes. Around it, a red light visible to the eyes spread out. Everything that was touched by this red light turned red. Wang Lin's face was dark as he followed the tunnel. He suddenly stopped as he saw an ocean of flames gathered in the tunnel before him. The fire formed a creature with triangular eyes and a single horn. It looked at Wang Lin with killing intent. Without a word, Wang Lin sent out his G-Realm Divine Sense. One could only see a ray of red lightning shoot out from Wang Lin's eyes and enter the fire beast. The fire beast's fire dimmed for a moment, but it soon recovered. It then opened its mouth and let out a roar before charging at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face darkened even more. He turned around, but his pupils suddenly shrank as another fire beast appeared behind him. At this moment, inside the narrow tunnel, there were 2 fire beasts blocking both sides. He clenched his teeth as he sent out the piece of metal. The metal began to dig another tunnel and Wang Lin quickly followed. But just at this moment, the 2 fire beasts suddenly let out roars. Wang Lin's heart sank. The dirt around Wang Lin suddenly turned red and hardened until it formed a cage. Wang Lin was trapped inside. This cage was closing around him until it completely surrounded him, finally trapping Wang Lin inside. At this moment, waves of cracks appeared on the ground. The ground collapsed inwards, forming a basin. A ball of black dirt was formed with Wang Lin inside. Around the dirt ball were 8 fire beasts that constantly spewed fire at the ball of dirt to make it smaller. Soon the ball grew smaller and smaller, and the beasts eventually stopped. One of the fire beasts grabbed the ball of dirt and jumped onto the ground. The other fire beasts quickly followed. They soon returned to the cave they were in before. The fire beast threw the ball of dirt into the lava before jumping in with the other fire beasts. They all disappeared into the lava. The lava let out a few more bubbles before calming down. The surrounding volcano stopped spewing black smoke and the heat wave disappeared. Aside from the giant basin that was formed by the fire beast, there was no other evidence of what had just occurred remaining. And basins were very common in Hofun. Almost next to every volcano there would be big and small basins. Wang Lin hugged his body as he resisted the high-temperature waves. The moment the dirt surrounded him, he covered his body in his G-realm divine sense. At the moment, his divine sense was slowly dissolving the dirt ball. He could clearly feel that he was shaking. With a shake, he could feel that he was thrown to the ground. Currently, his divine sense had broken through the restriction of the dirt ball, so he could clearly see everything before him. In front of him was an endless pool of lava. There were countless openings above it. Lava flowed down into this endless pool from the openings. The dirt ball he was trapped in was currently floating in the lava. Around him were 7 or 8 more dirt balls floating around. On top of each one sat a fire beast. Then he looked at the lava around him and saw countless triangular eyes. One of the fire beasts jumped up from the lava and sat down on top of Wang Lin's ball of dirt. The fire beast didn't notice Wang Lin's divine sense at all. Time slowly passed and more fire beasts came from the tunnels above. Every group carried a dirt ball as well. At this moment, the entire pool of lava began to shake. Every fire beast quickly made an opening where a giant fire beast appeared. Wang Lin quickly withdrew his divine sense and began to observe carefully. A normal fire beast was only 3 feet tall, but just the head of this large fire beast was already larger than 10 feet. Slowly, a large portion of the big fire beast's body appeared. Along with this large body, a powerful pressure came, causing all of the small fire beasts to stop moving. Wang Lin's heart was shocked. The power this large fire beast was at was least at the nascent soul level. As for exactly how strong, Wang Lin was unable to determine as he had never met a soul formation cultivator before. This large fire beast looked around before moving to the left. Soon another large fire beast came out. One by one, they appeared until there was a total of 16. These 16 fire beasts formed a circle. Once the circle was complete, a translucent ring of fire appeared in the middle. Rainbow-colored light emanated from it. Wang Lin carefully looked and saw a figure slowly become solid as it formed a ball of fire the size of his fist. Slivers of red lines lined the ball of fire to the ring of fire. The moment the ball of fire appeared, the 16 large fire beasts let out roars. One by one, their bodies jumped up from the lava pool. They then proceeded to kneel on the lava. All of the smaller fire beasts also jumped out of the lava and kneeled. Wang Lin was observing when he suddenly felt a shock in his brain as the heaven-defying bead appeared without him willing it for the first time. If he didn't quickly stop it, then it would have broken through the dirt. Just at this moment, a fire beast grabbed the dirt ball beneath him and threw it at the ball of fire. The dirt ball suddenly stopped in mid-air, and the ball of fire quickly entered the dirt ball. The sucking noise was very clear in this silent cave. A chilling scream came from inside the dirt ball. The scream continued, but got softer and softer until no sound came out anymore. Soon, slivers of blood mist came from the dirt ball and the ball of fire came out. The dirt ball fell from the air and sank into the lava. Wang Lin's heart sank as well. He now understood that he wasn't the only person alive inside a dirt ball. Even if he didn't protect himself, the dirt ball wouldn't have killed him. At most, he would be asleep. Subsequently, 4 more dirt balls were tossed at the ball of fire. Screams rang out as the ball of fire entered them. The screams lasted for more than half an hour. When the 5th dirt ball sank into the lava, the dirt ball Wang Lin was in was thrown out. The heaven-defying bead shook violently, and with a never-before-seen momentum, it broke through Wang Lin's hold. Just at this moment, the ball of fire entered the dirt ball Wang Lin was in, and a wave of heat quickly spread throughout the dirt ball as the ball of fire smoothly entered it. However, at the exact same moment, the heaven-defying bead charged out, causing the ball of fire to pause and then turn away without any hesitation. But it was still too late. The heaven-defying bead ignored everything in its way and slammed into the ball of fire. The ball of fire let out a scream and began to struggle, but before it could struggle for long, it was absorbed by the heaven-defying bead. The leaves that were on the heaven-defying bead disappeared and were replaced by a ball of fire. Soon, many more balls of fire appeared on the heaven-defying bead. The ball of fire became dimmer and dimmer until it dissipated completely. At this moment, the 10th ball of fire appeared on the heaven-defying bead, causing it to let out a bright light that could be clearly seen even from outside the dirt ball. At this moment, with the disappearance of the ball of fire, the fire ring began to dim and the red slivers that connected the ring of fire to the ball of fire broke. Wang Lin stared dumbfoundedly at what had happened. Not only him, all of the fire beasts were also completely stunned. They stood motionless in the cave, not knowing what to do at all. The heaven-defying bead quickly moved toward Wang Lin and retreated into his brow. Wang Lin didn't have time to check the bead as he moved his body and activated the attraction force technique. He carried the dirt ball up and into one of the tunnels. All of this happened in a very short period of time. It wasn't until Wang Lin's dirt ball left that the fire beasts realized what had happened. The 16 large fire beasts let out roars as they tore open the tunnel and chased after Wang Lin. Behind him, tens of thousands of fire beasts let out angry roars and chased him. Wang Lin's body was trapped inside the dirt ball as he moved through the lava. It has to be said that the lava was flowing down into the cave. Wang Lin was currently going against the current, so there was no way for him to move fast. But the fire beasts weren't slowed at all because they grew up in the lava. It could be said that they were fire spirits, meaning that the hotter it was, the faster they moved. Although Wang Lin didn't know what that ball of fire was, just the fact that it was able to complete the fire element for the heaven-defying bead was already a big enough shock. From the respect the beasts showed and how angry they had become, that ball of fire must have been very important to them. It was likely that the ball of fire was their king. Wang Lin's guess was not wrong. The fire beasts were born from the lava. It could be described as a fire spirit and was ranked fairly high. According to the Cultivation Union, they were universally called fire spirit beasts. From the moment of its birth, it had intelligence. It cultivated in the lava under Ho Fun for many years, and its cultivation was very powerful. In the countless years it had been alive, it had transformed 5 times. If it changes 9 times, then it can change from a spirit beast to a desolate beast, but after every transformation, it is in a weakened state for 500 years, unable to use any spiritual energy at all. In order to protect itself every time it's about to transform, it spreads out its spiritual energy to speed up the growth of the next generation to protect itself. At the same time as it transformed more and more, it learned that there was a way to shorten the time of weakness: devour cultivators. He didn't need to devour a lot, only a few cultivators every once in a while. So it used its offspring to catch cultivators that came into the volcano and fed them. To prevent the cultivators from harming the fire spirit, they would all be trapped in dirt. As a result, the fire spirit could leisurely enjoy its meal. But now, the weakened fire spirit itself was devoured instead, and the moment it disappeared, all of the fire beasts became angry. In their hearts, the fire spirit wasn't only their king, it was also their father. Their father was killed before them. How could they not be angry? Gradually, they got closer and closer. One of the 16 fire beasts in the front opened its mouth and spat out fire that was almost pure white. Inside the purple lava, the white flame was very eye-catching. When it hit Wang Lin's dirt ball, the dirt ball immediately shrunk one size. Wang Lin bled everywhere as the white flame hit his dirt ball. His G-realm divine sense could only stop so much. He clenched his teeth and used even more spiritual energy to escape. The fire beasts destroyed everything in their path as they charged at Wang Lin. They got closer and closer until 8 fire beasts spat out white flames together. The moment the flame hit the dirt ball, Wang Lin's body shook and he charged out from inside it. His body was surrounded by his divine sense as he withstood the unbearable heat and charged out. After he came out, he stopped for a moment as the piece of metal appeared from his bag of holding and flew to under his feet. The piece of metal formed a rainbow and carried Wang Lin out from the top. Looking from the outside, one could see a completely black figure with clothes that were almost all burnt charge out of the mouth of the volcano. Behind him followed the 16 fire beasts. They chased him all the way to the entrance of the volcano. They roared at him in frustration, but strangely didn't dare to follow him out. Only now did Wang Lin let out a breath of relief. He looked down and his scalp suddenly went numb. He saw that below the 16 fire beasts were countless triangular eyes looking up. Their eyes only had one point of interest, and that was him. Any one of those fire beasts could block his G-realm divine sense. This should be impossible, but if this was really true, then the only explanation was that these fire beasts didn't have souls or divine sense. Wang Lin's face was gloomy. He looked at the countless fire beasts below him and flew into the distance without a word. Gradually, he became even more gloomy as along the way, every time he saw a volcano, he would see fire beasts. These fire beasts all waited at the mouths of volcanoes, starting at him with cold gazes. All of them seemed to be waiting for a command, and once the command was issued, they would all charge out of the volcanoes. Wang Lin's scalp felt numb as he rubbed his temple. He decided that he would get a map as soon as possible so he could leave Hofan and never come back. Thinking about that, he stopped moving and spread out his divine sense. After probing for a while, he changed directions and flew north. Although he didn't look at the volcanoes on the way anymore, he could still clearly see those cold gazes staring at him. At this moment, all of the nascent soul ancestors came out of their closed-door cultivation sessions. They, ones who stood at the top of the rank 3 cultivation country, could clearly feel the waves of destructive energy brewing inside Hofan. This had happened many times before. This meant that the volcanoes inside Hofan were about to erupt. Every time this happened, they would go to the volcanoes they were each responsible for to seal them to prevent them from erupting. Because if they were to erupt, then it would be a great disaster for Hofan. Mortals might be able to run to another country without my resistance. Even the royal family would have the cultivators coming out to speak for them. After all, even though mortals were like ants to cultivators, there was a higher chance of finding disciples among the mortals if they were more of them. Mortals could go, but cultivators couldn't, because if a large amount of cultivators were to go to another country, there would be a great war. In the cultivation world, it is a huge taboo for a cultivation country to migrate, because migration equates to a large amount of spiritual energy loss, chaos between all of the sects, and a large shift in ownership of spirit stones and magic treasures. On planet Suzaku, there is a fixed number of cultivation countries. If the volcanoes were to erupt, then the consequence would be a large amount of violent fire element spiritual energy escaping. This violent spiritual energy is impossible to cultivate. So for a long time, cultivators won't be able to survive in Hofan. But luckily, these kinds of things have not happened even once. Every time, the volcanoes would be sealed without any real problems. Even if there were eruptions, they would only affect small areas, not the entire country. 3 hours later, Wang Lin stopped above a main road. If his face was already dark, then when he saw what was on the main road, it turned green. On the main road were dozens of bodies, as well as several dead horses, on the ground beside a wagon. Most of the dead bodies were male. Without exception, all of their faces revealed looks of suffering. They were all still holding weapons in their hands. It was clear that they were still fighting when they died. Wang Lin stopped next to a carriage and waved his hand. A violent wind hit the carriage, causing it to fly into the air. As a dead body fell out from inside it, a flash of red light came out from the corpse, taking the form of a devil. He stared at Wang Lin with a look of terror on his face, but that expression soon turned vicious as he shouted, "You came at a good time. I was about to go find you. These mortals' souls are too plain. I wonder how yours taste." With that, he jumped at Wang Lin. Wang Lin was extra careful. He was able to track this devil because he left a mark with his divine sense on all of the beasts he fed the devil with. If he keeps feeding it like that, then no matter how strong the devil gets, he will be able to easily control it. But now time was short, so he could only detect them if they were within a certain distance. However, when he was chasing Sun Yukai and met the fire beasts, the devil managed to run away. After Wang Lin came out of the volcano, he used his divine sense to chase after the devil. After devouring so many mortals, the devil had recovered its cultivation level to the peak of the foundation establishment stage and entered the pseudo-core formation stage. He believed that he was already stronger than Wang Lin, so he attacked. Wang Lin's gaze became cold as red lightning surged from his eyes. The devil suddenly let out a scream as the lightning struck him. He quickly stopped his attack and retreated. How could Wang Lin let him get away? He took one step forward and grabbed the air with his hand. The attraction force technique activated and caught the devil. The devil begged for mercy, but Wang Lin didn't pay any attention as his G-realm divine sense repeatedly pierced through the devil. His control was very good. He always stopped just before the devil was about to collapse. This cycle continued until smoke came from the devil's body. His scream became softer and softer until they stopped altogether. The fear in the devil's eyes deepened even more. After this incident, he truly begun to fear Wang Lin from the bottom of his heart. Wang Lin's cold eyes revealed a ruthless emotion. He stared at the devil and said, "If this happens again, you're dead." The devil trembled in fear as he meekly nodded. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the piece of metal appeared. The devil didn't even need Wang Lin's order. He entered the piece of metal on his own. The piece of metal flashed red a few times before returning to the bag of holding. Wang Lin looked at the bodies of the people the devil devoured and pondered for a while. His current mentality was night and day compared to how it was back in Zhao. Before, the simple nature of a village boy was still ingrained in Wang Lin's personality, but after the death of his family, that simple nature had disappeared. The cultivation world was where the strong ruled. If he couldn't even protect himself and his family, then what right did he have to show compassion? Situ Nan had always wanted him to walk the demonic path, but Wang Lin always refused it. However, after dying once, he had discarded every reason to refuse it. So what if I become a demon? He let out a cold laugh as he waved his hand and jumped into the air. Wang Lin circled around a volcano in a deserted area of Hofan. After selecting a place, he landed and carved out a cave in the mountain with the piece of metal. After 1 hour, the cave was completed, and Wang Lin walked into it. He used the rubble to place a few confusion formations before sealing the cave entrance. After finishing all of that, he sat down on the ground, pulled out the bags of holding he got from the middle-aged man and Sun Yukai, and searched through them for a while. He took out 3 pieces of jade from them. He placed the first piece of jade on his forehead. After viewing it for a while, he placed it to the side. This one contained a cultivation method from the evil demon sect called No Restraint Cultivation Method. The evil demon sect was one of the demonic sects in Hofan, and their cultivation method would make one's skin crawl. This No Restraint Cultivation Method had 6 levels and focused on ruthlessness. The jade's instructions were, kill someone then refine their heart. As you refine their heart, use this experience to transform your own heart into the heart of a killer and walk down the path of ruthlessness. Immerse yourself in the path of ruthlessness to form a surer soul to replace your nascent soul. Then this cultivation method is complete. There was a strict requirement to cultivating this method at the start, and that was to kill 1 person a day. He guessed that the middle-aged man was cultivating this method and that this jade came from his bag of holding. Wang Lin didn't have any interest in this cultivation method, but was interested in some of the techniques. Although these demonic techniques were cruel, they were also very practical. He picked up a second jade. Its contents made him smile. There was only 1 technique recorded on this jade. It was named Earth Escape Technique. This Earth Escape Technique was one of the 5 Elements Escape Techniques. Speaking of the 5 Elements Escape Techniques, they were extremely famous techniques, even back in the ancient cultivation world. After the cultivation Enyan appeared, this technique became extremely rare. But the 5 element escape techniques were too famous and thus countless branches appeared from it. Most of these branches used the name, but they really weren't that much different from any other type of escape techniques. The jade in Wang Lin's hand didn't contain the real 5-element escape technique either. It was slightly more refined than the other imitations. However, just that little refinement created a world of difference. Time slowly passed as he immersed himself in studying the earth escape technique. It wasn't until the morning of the next day that Wang Lin opened his eyes and revealed a look of understanding. Instead of standing up, he hit the ground with both of his hands. His figure suddenly disappeared and reappeared 30 feet away. A look of joy appeared on Wang Lin's face as he couldn't help but mutter, "This Ma Liang's body is much stronger than my previous body. Although it is not top grade, it is still middle grade, so it is not hard to learn this earth escape technique. But I will still need to practice for a long period of time to truly master it." Wang Lin took out the wooden bucket filled with spirit liquid. He drank it all, then began to cultivate. Half an hour later, all of the fatigue from practicing the earth escape technique was gone. He casually picked up the third jade and looked through it. This jade contained recordings of Sun Yotsai's daily activities. It seemed Sun Yukai had a habit of keeping a daily log. This jade roughly contained his 30 years of being a cultivator. It also contained information on his complicated relationships with several women. Wang Lin skipped over all these things. What interested him was the summary of all of the pills Sun Yukai had taken in the last 10 years. The jade contained information about more than 10 different types of pills, including the effects they would have on the body, amount of spiritual energy given, and how fast they would raise his cultivation level. In addition to these, it contained information on 7 or 8 pills that he really wanted but could not get his hands on. After that, he looked through the bags of holding for other things. Besides a few bottles of pills, Sun Yukai didn't have any magic treasures. If it was before, Wang Lin would have been suspicious, but after reading his logs, he knew that Sun Yukai traded everything he had for pills to increase his cultivation level. The black-clothed middle-aged man had one thing that caught Wang Lin's attention. It was a yellow paper with a black symbol on it. The symbol released waves of a powerful aura. Wang Lin knew what this yellow paper was as he had owned one before. It was made by a core formation cultivator and contained one of that cultivator's attacks at full power. Wang Lin couldn't help but sneer as he held the yellow paper. If the middle-aged man had been more careful and had taken this out, then he wouldn't have died. But it was obvious that this was the middle-aged man's ace in the hole. He wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, he met Wang Lin's G realm. Adding on the fact that he underestimated Wang Lin, he didn't even have time to take out this treasure. Compared to this talisman, nothing else in the bag of holding was worth mentioning. After he finished organizing his spoils, he pointed at his brow and the heaven-defying bead floated out. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile as he looked at the bead. The heaven-defying bead had already returned to having 5 leaves on its surface. Wang Lin pondered a little. The heaven-defying bead needed to complete all 5 elements to release its true power. Water and fire were done and wood was half completed. He still needed earth and metal to complete all 5 elements. Wang Lin couldn't wait to see what power this heaven-defying bead will have once the 5 elements are complete. Looking at it now, the only ability it had was access to another space. However, how could a treasure that caused Planet Suzaka's #1 expert, Situ Nan, to lose his body be this simple? Staring at the bead, Wang Lin's eyes trembled. He put it back into his brow. Next, he shook his bag of holding and a jade flew out. His divine sense entered the jade. This jade contained the refining technique Yang Xiong had copied for him from the war god shrine. This whole time Wang Lin hadn't found the time to check the jade. Now he could finally study it in peace. At this moment, the countless volcanoes in Hofen emitted black smoke. The smoke became even denser as it spread spiritual energy filled with rage across Hofen. In addition to all of this, the disciples of the various sects noticed the fire beasts at the mouths of the volcanoes. They were all shocked and used various methods to report the information back to their sects. The 4 major sects were very used to sealing the volcanoes and were very used to the fire beasts. However, only cultivators at the nascent soul level knew about them. At this moment, in the main hall of the war god shrine, there were 4 males and 2 females sitting inside, silently frowning. One of the old men to the left spoke with a grim voice. "What does everyone think of this matter? Senior brother Song, I have only seen these fire beasts in some old records. The records only say that they are spirit beasts. The descriptions are overly dramatic, but I believe they shouldn't be ignored. However, since they are spirit beasts, I believe they can be tamed. If the 6 of us move, we should be fine. I refuse to believe 6 nascent soul cultivators can't deal with mere fire beasts. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man. Although his face was gentle and his voice soft, they were filled with pride. The beautiful woman who met Wang Lin ruthlessly said, "Absurd. Master has met the fire spirit beasts once when they were only at the core formation stage. It is a nature fire spirit, so all fire-based techniques have no use on them. Only ice-based techniques can hold out for a bit. Don't even talk about killing or taming them." The middle-aged man didn't feel embarrassed. He looked at the woman awkwardly and no longer spoke. This matter is really simple. The fire spirit beasts have existed for a long time, but they never left the volcanoes. I believe there are some natural restrictions preventing them from leaving. I just need to increase the intensity of the seals. Instead of wasting time here talking, we can be doing that right now. I'll go ahead. The person who spoke waved his sleeves, stood up and walked out. This person was 6 feet tall, and with a forehead that extended 3 extra inches forward. Seeing that everyone went silent, the old man named Song said, "Forget it. I hope that the appearance of the fire beasts won't cause the seals to fail. Let's do what we normally do, and seal the volcanoes we are responsible for." The same scene happened at the Luhi sect, Evil Demon sect, and Corpse sect. The results were roughly the same, and all of the nascent soul cultivators in Hofun went about sealing the volcanoes. Suddenly, the entire county of Hofun could see various nascent soul cultivators from different sects floating around volcanoes, sealing them. The fluctuations of spiritual energy became more violent in these past few days as well. As they sealed the volcanoes, all of the nascent soul cultivators couldn't help but feel that something was off. Every volcano had countless fire beasts just waiting at their mouths. They didn't stop the sealing or attack the cultivators, they just waited with cold gazes. Their actions gave the feeling that they didn't even mind the seals at all. Gradually, the hearts of the nascent soul cultivators that had joined the sealing became heavier and heavier. Even those that had optimistic views changed their minds. Wang Lin wasn't ignorant to all of this while he was immersed in learning how to refine magic treasures. He knew that the fire beasts would appear one day, but he had to wait 10 days for Lin Tao to bring him the map. Only at that moment could he leave. It would be too difficult to find a map after entering another country. There were still 4 days left before the day Wang Lin was supposed to meet Lin Tao. Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense from the jade. Although he was tired, he revealed a joyous expression. The refining technique was very deep and not something he could master in a short period of time. Once he realized that, he focused his attention on refining flying swords. After putting away the jade, he waved his hand and the piece of metal immediately flew out of his bag of holding. It circled around his head once before stopping in front of him. After being used so much recently, the piece of metal had shrunk. The edges were all black, which was caused by all of the high-speed flying. The edges had melted more and more each time he flew. Wang Lin pondered for a while, then closed his hands. When he opened them, there were thin lines of spiritual energy between his hands. This was the first step to the War God Shrine's refining technique. The refining technique from the War God Shrine was different from the traditional refining techniques. It could be said to walk its own path. It didn't involve using fire to refine, placing formations, or mixing materials. Instead, it was a very mysterious system that was like a Pegasus appearing out of thin air. This special system required 3 steps: adjust, fuse, and harmonize. The War God Shrine also required a very important tool called the reaction furnace that was mentioned many times in the jade. The effect of the reaction furnace was to stimulate the various elements of each material. Only after successfully creating a reaction furnace could one be considered to have taken the first step in this refining technique. Both of Wang Lin's hands moved very quickly as the amount of spiritual energy threads between his hands increased. Soon, he formed something like a sheet of cloth made of shining spiritual energy between his hands. Once this thin cloth of spiritual energy was made, he waved his hands and it floated into the air. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he recalled the methods of making the reaction furnace. There was one very difficult requirement, and that was the skull of a spirit beast to use as the body of the furnace. Wang Lin didn't know that just this requirement caused many disciples in the war god shrine to be stuck forever. Wang Lin took a deep breath and slapped his bag of holding. The corpse of a snake with a head and body that were as thick as a small wooden bucket floated out. This snake came from the bag of holding he got from Su Hao in the foreign battleground. Wang Lin wasn't sure where he had gotten it and he didn't really care. But now that he needed to make the reaction furnace, he took it out to try. According to his analysis, this snake was once the pet of some powerful cultivator. Su Hao got lucky and found its body while cleaning up the foreign battleground. He carefully cut the snake's head off and got rid of all of the skin and meat. What appeared before him was an oval skull. After removing the insides, the body of a reaction furnace was complete. Next, Wang Lin carefully controlled the layer of spiritual energy and delicately placed it over the skull. He only heard a snap as cracks appeared on the skull. The cracks increased until the skull broke into pieces. At this moment, the layer of spiritual energy began to slowly dissipate until it completely disappeared. The production of the reaction furnace failed. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile. Although he was disappointed, he was still somewhat prepared for this result. The jade said that the chance of creating the furnace was low. He would need to gain better control over the strands of spiritual energy, but the most important part was still the material for the furnace's body. It would be best if he could get the skull of a beast that had just died or the skull of a powerful beast. A desolate beast would be even better. If the beast had been dead for a long time, the chance of succeeding was very slow. If it was not a spirit beast, then the success rate was basically zero. The quality of the reaction furnace will affect his refining capability in the future. The jade repeated this many times. Wang Lin pondered a bit after the production of the reaction furnace failed. As for spirit beasts, he only had the one snake in his bag. Now that the snake's skull had shattered and there was no way to make a reaction furnace, Wang Lin could only take a step back and look for another way to refine treasures. He pointed at the piece of metal, and it immediately began to spin rapidly. Soon, drops of liquid metal fell from the piece of metal as it shrank. Finally, the piece of metal turned into a puddle of liquid metal. The devil had already left the metal and looked at Wang Lin sheepishly from the side. The image of the little cyan sword flew out and floated around Wang Lin. He then took out the black sword that belonged to Sun Yotsai's senior apprentice brother. This made it easy for Wang Lin. Wang Lin pointed at the image of the little sword. It flew into the black sword and slowly fused with it. This method was the most direct and the worst type of refining. It really couldn't even be considered refining, more like finding a new body for your flying sword. Much like how cultivators possess bodies. Wang Lin frowned as he tested the flying sword. The sword was much faster than the piece of metal but still far from what it was back in Zhao. However, this was the best result he could get for now. The devil didn't wait for Wang Lin's order, and obediently entered the flying sword. Wang Lin put away the flying sword. He did some calculations to figure out the time for a bit, then took a break to cultivate. After recovering his spiritual energy, he took a step without any hesitation and disappeared. Wang Lin didn't know that during the few days he had been in closed-door training, some earth-shattering changes had occurred in Hofun. The source of this change was a volcano a nascent soul cultivator from the Lu He sect was sealing off. One of the volcanoes he had sealed suddenly erupted, spewing lava hundreds of feet into the air. At the same time, large amounts of black smoke filled the sky. This wasn't much, but what caused the nascent soul cultivator's scalp to go numb were the countless fire beasts that charged out with the lava. Among these spirit beasts, there was one that was especially large. After the nascent soul cultivator fought the giant fire beasts, he found that he was no match and escaped with injuries. Luckily, the fire beast didn't chase him. It went to destroy the seals on the other volcanoes instead. Suddenly, many volcanoes across Hofun erupted, filling the air with violent spiritual energy. If anyone were to cultivate that spiritual energy right now, if they were lucky, they would just go mad, but if they were not, they would burn themselves to death. The moment this happened, the entire country of Hofun went into chaos. The first to be affected were the mortals, as they couldn't defend against the fire beasts at all. All of the mortals were moving out of the country. Second were the various small and medium sects and families. They all looked toward the four main sects to see if they were fighting or running. The nascent soul cultivators of the four sects met at the war god shrine. After reporting the news to the upper cultivation country, they gave out the order to migrate. After all, there was a chance that the rank 4 cultivation country would show up at any time. Even if they were to win, their losses would be heavy and they were likely to drop back down to rank 2. Bordering Hofan was the country of Xianwu. Compared to Hofan, Xianwu was much messier as there were a lot more sects there. When Wang Lin exited the cave, it was just as the 4 main sects were migrating. A migration of sects sounded simple, but because such a thing rarely happened, it was anything but. Because of the fire beast's constant attacks, the sects had to keep sending out disciples to hold them off. As a result, once the 4 main sects finally grouped together, adding on the various other families, they formed a group of 20,000 plus cultivators. At this point, not only had all of the fire beasts broken open the seals on all of the volcanoes, they also formed a 100,000 fire beast army, which was closing in. After several large battles, the cultivators broke out of the encirclement. They left behind a group to hold off the fire beasts as everyone else closed in on Xianwu. The moment Wang Lin left the cave, his pupils shrank as he saw 7 or 8 cultivators get jumped on by fire beasts and instantly die. Wang Lin didn't hesitate to use the earth escape technique to move toward the war god shrine. As he moved, he found fire beasts everywhere. The more he traveled, the more shocked he became. He quickly changed directions. Meeting Lin Tao wasn't his objective anymore. Instead, he moved toward the border of the country using information from Ma Liang's memories. He could no longer stay in Hofan. But before he got very far, a giant divine sense swept by him. This divine sense quickly moved back and concentrated on him. Shocked, he scanned the sky. What he saw were 16 giant fire beasts in a circle with a ring of fire in between them. Threads of fire from the fire ring were connected to the fire beasts' heads. The powerful divine sense came from the ring of power. This was clearly a special technique the fire beasts were born with. It was something they could only use when working together. When they found Wang Lin, all 16 fire beasts' eyes went cold. They all roared as they descended from the sky and charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin sped up without a word and escaped. The 16 giant beasts all let out angry roars and spat out fire, causing the ground to turn red and split apart. Wang Lin had already seen this before, so how would he let it hit him twice? As the fire came out of the beasts' mouths, he came out of the ground and disappeared in a ray of rainbow light. The 16 beasts didn't give up. The only reason they left the volcano was to find and kill the cultivator that killed their ancestor. This was the only thought in their minds right now. At the same time, because of Wang Lin, these fire beasts now hated all cultivators. They basically wanted to kill every single one they saw. Their losses were heavy too, especially under the powerful cultivator's magic treasures. To be more accurate, these fire beasts don't have a souls. They exist in a special way. Normal flying swords cannot damage their hard bodies. The best way is to hit them with powerful blunt weapons. However, there were just too many of them. Even now, there were endless fire beasts coming out of the big and small volcanoes in Hofan. As for exactly how many there were, no one but the ancestor fire spirit, who was absorbed by the heaven-defying bead, would know. As Wang Lin flew more, he got faster. These fire beasts were faster than him when they were inside the lava, but out here in the open, Wang Lin managed to keep his distance. However, Wang Lin didn't feel very well. The surrounding spiritual energy was filled with fire element. Every time he absorbed some, he would feel waves of pain. In addition to the constant roars of the 16 giant fire beasts behind him, there were countless fire beasts coming to obstruct him. More and more fire beasts accumulated behind him, chasing after him. He spread out his divine sense and felt his scalp go numb. There were so many fire beasts behind him that he couldn't tell how many there were right away. If he were to pause for just a moment, the fire beasts would tear him apart. But Wang Lin was not one to be hunted. Back when he was only at the qi condensation stage, he dared to sneak attack Teng Li, who was at the late stage of foundation establishment. At this moment, a vicious gaze flashed across his eyes. He took out a bucket full of spirit liquid and drank it as he ran to recover the spiritual energy he had consumed. Next, a black light flew out of his bag of holding and disappeared. It reappeared before a fire beast and stabbed it. The sound of 2 pieces of metal hitting each other rang out. A bloody wound appeared on the chest of the beast and it was knocked far away. It let out a roar as it got up and continued chasing. Wang Lin's expression was normal, but his face darkened. Not only were the fire beasts immune to his G-realm divine sense, but their bodies were also this tough. The flying sword was only able to wound that beast's body, and from the looks of it, it could only be considered a light wound. Wang Lin was unwilling to give up. As he flew, he continued to attack the fire beasts. Using its ability to teleport, the sword moved in a very strange way until it stabbed in between the brows of a fire beast. The sword sunk in and the fire beasts exploded, releasing waves of heat. Wang Lin's hair immediately curled as the smell of burning hair reached him, but his eyes lit up. Although these fire beasts were tough, they were not without weaknesses. After this, Wang Lin continued to control the flying word to ambush the fire beasts. One by one, the fire beasts were beheaded by him. Based on his calculations, the normal-sized fire beasts were only at the qi condensation stage, but because they had no souls and tough bodies, it was difficult to kill them. But because Wang Lin was only one person, and adding on the fact that the fire beasts knew no fear, they continued to chase after him. Eventually, the flying sword teleported too much and its shape began to change. After all, the sword's spirit was simply possessing a new body. It was not fused with it. There were dents on it and some parts of it had completely melted. If the flying sword's original owner were to be revived, even he wouldn't be able to recognize it anymore. Wang Lin realized that this was not a long-term solution as more and more fire beasts showed up. Even though he had spirit liquid, once he runs out and can't recover fast enough, he will die. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and changed directions. He no longer went to Xianwu, but flew toward the War God Shrine. He didn't believe that the War God Shrine would have been wiped out by these first beasts. If he was the War God Shrine's ancestor, he would definitely decide to move, and that would take time. And even if they were going to move, it wouldn't be too quick because there were too many people. He had only been in the cave for a few days. Even if the fire beasts had moved on the first day he went into the cave, the War God Shrine still wouldn't able to move this fast. These were merely guesses by Wang Lin. What made him make this decision was the soul blood essences telling him the general location of Yang Xiong and Lin Tao. The moment Wang Lin changed directions, the fire beasts closed in on him. They spewed lava at him and many times he was almost hit. He clenched his teeth as he moved even faster toward the War God Shrine. Not long after, Wang Lin felt a powerful aura from a distance. He spread out his divine sense and noticed a group of tens of thousands of cultivators slowly closing in. The scene of tens of thousands of cultivators on their swords shocked Wang Lin for a moment, but he quickly recovered and charged toward the army of cultivators. Among the army of cultivators, there were many war chariots that emitted waves of spiritual energy. The fire beasts suddenly stopped and the 16 large fire beasts blocked the army of cultivators. The army of cultivators didn't stop. More than 10,000 flying swords attacked without any hesitation under the orders of 10 nascent soul cultivators. Soon after, 2 more groups flew out from the army and 2,000 more people joined the battle. Before Wang Lin even got to the army, 2 lights flew out and surrounded him. The person in the middle was an ordinary-looking young woman, but there was heavy killing intent coming from between her eyebrows. She looked at the fire beasts behind her and revealed a look of hate. She turned to Wang Lin and asked, "Fellow cultivator, which sect's disciple are you? Quickly say your name." Wang Lin revealed a look of fear and quickly replied, "I'm a disciple of the War God Shrine Maliang." The woman looked at Wang Lin coldly and said, "Chongxian, take him to the War God Shrine to verify his identity. If he isn't a disciple of the War God Shrine, kill him." A young man flew out and nodded at Wang Lin, gesturing Wang Lin to follow him. Then he flew toward the army. Wang Lin clasped his hands at the young woman before following the young man. Soon, they arrived at the center of the army of cultivators. The closer he got to the center, the more he realized how terrifying an army of cultivators large enough to cover the sky was. The fluctuations of spiritual energy here had already reached an unimaginable level. Although the entire country was covered by the black smoke coming out from the volcanoes, under the fluctuations of the spiritual energy from the army of cultivators, a path has been cut open in the huge cloud of black smoke. Everywhere the black smoke was split apart, unable to stop the army at all. What was even denser than the fluctuations of spiritual energy was all of the sword qi. It was so dense that it could cause the sky to change colors. The sword qi revealed its might as it clashed against the black smoke. Especially now, at dawn, and adding on the fight before them, it created this very majestic feel. Various flying sword and magic treasures shined in the sky like fireworks that were too chaotic to keep track of. This scene was something Wang Lin will never forget. After all, this scene was something that only appeared in large-scale battles. Compared to the collapse of the foreign battleground, there was an extra sense of everyone working together and the need to charge out of Hofan. This power wasn't something an individual could wield. It was achieved because the entire country had been forced to move to survive. Only the horde of fire beasts could compete with it. Wang Lin couldn't help but enter a trance. By the time he regained himself, he had already reached to the center of the army with the young man. Xianqing shouted, "Scout from Luhe sect Qingxian has brought War God Shrine disciple Ma Liang. Would someone from the War God Shrine confirm his identity?" Wang Lin's expression was normal. That nascent soul woman didn't act against him, and her voice was filled with the intention of bringing him to their side. But even without that woman's intent, Wang Lin would still come here. After all, this was the only place he could go while being chased by the army of fire beasts. But Wang Lin was a very cautious person, so he was prepared to escape the moment things looked bad. With the battle with the fire beasts before them, there wouldn't be many people willing to chase him. As for the nascent soul cultivators, none of them would take time away from managing the migration to come and kill him. Core formation cultivators were the main fighting force against the fire beasts, so the best people to send after him would be late-stage foundation establishment cultivators at the pseudo-core formation stage. But foundation establishment cultivators were no threat to Wang Lin. If one came, he would kill one. If 10 came, he would kill 10 without any fear. The moment Qingxian finished speaking, the expression of a female cultivator, who was standing on a flying sword, suddenly darkened and became unsettled after hearing the words Ma Liang. She clenched her teeth, stopped and turned around. This woman was very beautiful, but her expression was very ugly as she came over. This woman was the person who Ma Liang couldn't get out of his mind even in the foreign battleground, his junior apprentice sister Su Si. She greeted Qingxian, then looked at Wang Lin with an ugly expression and cold eyes as she said, "Where did this evildoer come from? You dare to pretend to be a disciple of the War God Shrine? Brother Qingxian, please help me kill this person." With that, she slapped her bag of holding and a 2-inch black rain needle appeared in her hand. She gently moved her wrist and the rain needle violently attacked Wang Lin. Strands of gray light spread from the needle, creating a shower of needles. The shower of needles covered the sky, then rained on Wang Lin. Qingxian was startled. He didn't act but took a few steps back. He stared coldly at Wang Lin without saying a word. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he sneered on the inside. He reached out, formed a giant hand with his attraction force technique, and easily caught all of the needles. He wiped off the divine sense on them, snorted, then casually placed them into his bag of holding. The young woman's beautiful face suddenly turned pale as a stream of blood flowed down from her red lips. Her body shook, and the flying sword under her feet lost its shine. She stared at Wang Lin with a look of disbelief. In her memory, Ma Liang couldn't possibly have this kind of power, not to mention stopping her magic treasure, but also to be able to so casually wipe her divine sense away from it. Her heart was in turmoil as she thought about this. Just at this moment, 3 sword lights came from the middle of the army of cultivators. When they arrived, they revealed 3 young men. One of them was Yang Xiong. He looked at the woman once, then turned around to Qingxian and said, "Sorry for bothering you, Brother Qingxian. Junior apprentice Ma Liang is indeed a disciple of the War God Shrine. Thank you for guiding him here." Qingxian looked at them meaningfully. He let out a chuckle as he shook his head and left. After he moved away a bit, he turned around and saw Yang Xiong being very respectful to Ma Liang. This startled him. After pondering for a bit, he changed directions and went toward the He-Tu sect. Yang Xiong ignored everyone around him and whispered to Wang Lin, "Does Master know Ancestor Fengluan? The person on the 5-colored phoenix chariot is her. She ordered me to bring you to her." Wang Lin raised his head to look at the constantly moving army of cultivators. In the center, there was a 5-colored phoenix chariot, and standing on it was a woman wearing a court dress. She seemed to notice Wang Lin's gaze and glanced at him. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he knew what was going on. This ancestor Feng Luan was the same middle-aged woman who had come for Zhou Zihong's soul essence blood. After pondering a little, he moved toward her with Yang Xiong. When he passed Su Si, he shot her a vicious look and silently placed a sliver of his divine sense on her. This divine sense will activate after 1 month and then this girl will die. After experiencing the events in Zhao, Wang Lin decided he would eliminate anyone who had ill intent towards him, whether they were man or woman. He would nip the bud before anything else could happen. Since this Su Si attacked first, then she couldn't blame him for being ruthless. Yang Xiong guided the way and whispered. When Lin Tao was making a copy of the map, he was caught by ancestor Feng Luan, so the map is currently in her hands. Lin Tao was also punished. If it wasn't for the migration, he would have been locked away for 10 years. Wang Lin's expression was normal, but he became even more cautious and followed Yang Xiong to the 5-colored phoenix chariot. Yang Xiong stopped after arriving near the chariot, but Wang Lin went past him. He arrived before ancestor Feng Luan, clasped his hands and respectfully said, Wang Lin greets senior. The woman withdrew her gaze from the battle and looked at Wang Lin. She gently asked, Wang Lin is your real name? Wang Lin silently nodded. The name Wang Lin was simply too common, so there was no need to hide it. If it was discovered by her that he was lying about his name, then it would be bad. The woman looked at the advancing army of cultivators. She pondered a bit before saying, Currently, the country of Ho Fun is in danger. Once we reach Xianwu, there will be another big battle. Thus, we can forget about this matter so you don't have to worry about it. If someone bothers you, I can protect you, but only once. After I help you, then I no longer owe you for saving Zihong. Just as Feng Luan finished speaking, the sky suddenly darkened. In the distant battlefield, 10 large volcanoes were ripped out from the ground and tossed aside by the 10 nascent soul cultivators. The fire beasts all scattered, but some of them were hit by the impact and were turned to paste. Using this chance, the army of cultivators charged through the opening and broke through the army of 20,000 or so fire beasts that were chasing Wang Lin. Flying swords charged into the gap one by one. Once a gap was opened, the cultivators had already won. After all, their goal wasn't to eliminate the fire beasts, but to escape. Feng Luan stared at the battlefield. The phoenix chariot suddenly charged forth and broke through as well. The 16 giant fire beasts were held down by the nascent soul cultivators. They roared repetitively, but eventually stopped and stared coldly at the escaping army of cultivators. Then they linked their hands together in a weird wave, and waves of roars like before came from their mouths. Shortly after, red lines came out of their foreheads to form the ring of fire. The moment the ring of fire appeared, the 16 giant fire beasts revealed looks of devotion and let out sad growls. Their bodies shrank rapidly as bursts of dark red energy entered the ring of fire. This process lasted more than an hour. Some cultivators noticed the change and came to stop them, but when they got close, they were turned to dust by a destructive force. After seeing this, no one else dared to come too close. 1 more hour later, the bodies of the 16 giant beasts had dissipated. They had all fused with the ring of fire. The ring didn't grow any larger, but the color was now dark red. Finally, it silently shattered into tiny red specks and disappeared. At this moment, all of the fire beasts inside Hofen stopped moving and knelt on the ground, letting out sad sounds at the same time. Suddenly, one of the fire beasts fell to the ground and started twitching. If one looked closely, they would see a speck of red light on its forehead. Its body rapidly expanded, and in less than 1 hour, it grew to 10 feet tall. Shortly after, one fire beast after another was touched by the red speck, and their bodies rapidly grew. In less than 2 hours, all of the fire beasts in Hofen seemed to have undergone a change. Their powers were also increased tenfold. The beasts that changed flew into the air and chased after the army of cultivators. More and more changed fire beasts joined the chase. This scene looked very intimidating. As for the army of cultivators, of the 10 nascent soul cultivators that returned from the battle, 4 came back to the war god shrines group. One of the old men with a pale face swept the chariot and locked onto Wang Lin. His voice was cold as he asked, "It was this junior who lured the fire beasts here?" Wang Lin stared at the old man with his cold gaze and nodded. The old man let out a few cold snorts, then his giant hand reached toward Wang Lin. Feng Wuan's face slightly darkened as she slapped the five-colored phoenix chariot. A five-colored phoenix appeared and let out a chirp. It flapped its wings and a five-colored light spread out. The old man withdrew his hand. He stared at the woman and angrily shouted, "Feng Wuan, what are you doing?" Not only did this guy possess a disciple of our war god shrine, but also lured the fire beasts here. You have to know that more than 1,000 disciples of Ho Fan died in that battle. Feng Wuan revealed a determined look and decisively said, "As long as I'm here, you can't kill him." Zhou Jin stared at Feng Wuan with a dark expression. He pondered for a bit, then said, "This person isn't Ma Liang, so he isn't a disciple of my war god shrine. Although I can't kill him, he can't stay here either." Feng Wuan turned toward Wang Lin and asked, "Wang Lin, are you willing to become my honorary disciple?" Wang Lin quickly thanked her and nodded. Zhou Jin's eyes narrowed and became cold. Feng Wuan's cultivation level was the same as his, at the early stage of nascent soul, but her cultivation partner XIAN was at the mid-stage of nascent soul. It wasn't really worth it to offend two nascent soul cultivators over something this small. Zhou Jin snorted and said, "Since junior apprentice sister Feng Wuan is willing to take this person as her disciple, then I naturally won't pursue this matter anymore." Putting the identity of this person aside, seeing that there are more battles to come, with his mere mid-stage foundation establishment cultivation level, it would be hard to ensure his safety. With that, he waved his sleeves and left. Of the three remaining nascent soul cultivators, only one flew toward Feng Wuan. The other two wryly smiled and scattered. The person who flew toward Feng Wuan looked like a middle-aged scholar. He was the mid-stage nascent soul cultivator that Zhou Jin dreaded, XIAN. He looked at Wang Lin and frowned. He then sighed at Feng Wuan and asked, "Junior sister Luan, why did you do this?" Feng Wuan coldly stared at the middle-aged scholar and said, "If it wasn't for him, Hong Er would have died in the foreign battleground. If it wasn't you for inciting her, how could Hong Er have entered that dangerous place?" The middle-aged scholar turned toward Wang Lin and deeply bowed. After he finished, he took out a piece of jade and swiped his hand over it. He threw it at Wang Lin and said, "This jade is a nascent soul-level treasure I made in my earlier years. I have already removed my divine sense from it. Once you imprint yours, you will be able to use it to protect yourself in the coming battles." Wang Lin revealed a joyous expression as he accepted the jade talisman. The middle-aged scholar no longer said anything to Wang Lin. He entered the phoenix chariot to talk to Feng Wuan. Wang Lin was not someone who didn't know his place. The moment the middle-aged scholar walked into the phoenix chariot, he left and joined the army's ranks. At the border of Ho Fan was Xian Wu. Along with the cultivators, all of the mortals were also migrating with their families to Xian Wu. Those fire beasts that underwent change rarely attacked mortals now. Their only target was Wang Lin. As time passed, the fire beasts began to catch up. More and more fire beasts appeared behind the army of cultivators, causing a heavy pressure to weigh above everyone's heads. There was a giant basin at the border of Ho Fan. After the army of cultivators arrived there, the heads of various sects and cultivation families, along with the 19 nascent soul cultivators, began an important secret meeting. After the meeting was over, 19 figures flew into the air above the basin. One of the Lu He sect cultivators shouted, "After many years of studying, my Lu He sect has determined this to be the ancestral home of the fire beasts, the birthplace of the fire spirit beasts. If we lay a seal here, it will affect all of the volcanoes in Ho Fan. Then, if we use the country sealing array left by our ancestors from more than 1,000 years ago, we can seal the fire beasts within Ho Fan." One of the evil demon sect's nascent soul cultivators looked at the ground and snorted. If our ancestors already had things prepared, then why didn't they just wipe them out back then instead of letting things become like this? The three nascent soul cultivators of the corpse sect had no coffins behind their backs. That meant they were close to completely possessing their bodies. The three of them had the most calm expressions. It was as if nothing interested them. If it wasn't for the fact that Ho Fan's current spiritual energy made it impossible for them to recover, they wouldn't even be involved in this migration. Ancestor Song of the War God Shrine rolled his eyes and said, "Even the ancestors wouldn't be able to predict that this disaster would come. Even if they did predict it, they wouldn't be able to help." To be able to leave something behind from 1,000 plus years ago to give us a chance to live is good enough. Fellow cultivators, let us begin. After Ancestor Song finished speaking, 6 nascent soul cultivators, including the middle-aged scholar and Feng Luan, stood together in a certain formation and formed a strange seal with their hands. The 6 of them let out shouts together and 6 lotus flowers flew out toward the eastern corner of the basin. The entire basin shook as a cloud of red smoke floated into the air. After that, the Lu He sect, Corpse sect, and Devil Demon sect shot lotus flowers at the south, west, and north corners respectively. More roars echoed in the basin as more and more red smoke appeared. The red smoke gathered in one place and formed many shapes before turning into a hollow ring. At this moment, the nascent soul cultivators from the cultivation families who hadn't acted yet let out bitter smiles. They hit their own foreheads and their nascent souls appeared. Then they flew into the empty space inside the ring and stayed there. One of the Lu He sect's cultivators shouted, "Fellow independent cultivator, act now. What are you waiting for?" One of the nascent souls inside the ring replied with a sharp tone, "Forget it. Since the 4 great sects are willing to repay us with nascent pills, it is only losing 100 years of spiritual energy. I'll do it." With that, the nascent soul formed a seal and charged into the smoke. The moment he entered the smoke, his nascent soul disappeared as if it had fused with the fog. The rest of the nascent souls clenched their teeth and changed in. The ring of fog didn't change in size, but there were movements of spiritual energy within it. The country sealing array left by this ancestor not only required all 4 sects to act, it also required nascent soul cultivators to use their nascent souls to ensure that the seal was perfect. The color of blood became stronger and stronger on this ring of smoke as it floated higher into the air. Soon after, the ring quickly expanded toward the 4 corners of Ho Fan. All of the volcanoes that the red ring passed released red smoke. The red smoke from the volcanoes joined the ring and increased its expansion speed. After 1 hour, the ring covered the entire country of Ho Fan like a bowl. The country sealing array had successfully opened. Once the country sealing array had opened, only mortals could freely enter. Anything with spiritual energy and under the soul formation stage would not be able to pass. As the sealing array opened, the 19 nascent soul cultivators of the 4 sects grabbed the bodies of the independent nascent soul cultivators. Those who had families had entrusted their bodies to them, while those without had entrusted their bodies to the Lu He sect. Several cultivators of Lu He sect stood outside the array. They bowed and shouted, "Fellow cultivators, please be at ease while you maintain the array. We promise to keep your bodies safe. This array only needs to last 3 months. I believe we will have a spot in Xianwu by then. I believe that by then, the higher cultivation country will also come to wipe out the beasts. We will personally come to greet your return." The moment that those words were said, the nascent soul cultivators of the other 3 sects sincerely bowed without a hint of dishonesty. After the country sealing array opened, the fire beasts let out angry roars and slammed into the red cover. Every time they slammed into it, the barrier would tremble, but none of them could break through. Now that they had managed to temporarily stop the fire beasts, the cultivator army moved at top speed. One could see ray of light left by the flying swords charging toward Xianwu. At the border of Xianwu were some mortal armies. These mortals gawked at the sky as countless flying swords flew over their heads. No one knew who, but someone let out a scream and began to kowtow toward the sky. Soon, everyone was kneeling on the ground, praying to the sky. There was one person who was dressed like a cultivator within the army. His face was pale as he muttered, These are the cultivators of Ho Fan." He sucked in a breath of cold air and took a few steps back. But just at that moment, a creepy laugh came from the sky. One of the Devil Demon sect's core formation cultivators came by on a flying sword. 3 flying swords quickly pierced through the middle-aged cultivator. The middle-aged cultivator let out a miserable groan as he was cut into pieces. The mortal army immediately scattered. Even the mortal general ran away, afraid of getting caught in this mess. Tens of thousands of flying swords charged into Xianwu in the blink of an eye. They stopped at a mountain covered in fog. An old man with a gloomy expression moved to the front of the army. He waved his hand and a powerful force smashed down on the mountain. Rays of golden light appeared, forming a screen to block the descent of the hit. Below the light screen were thousands of cultivators. They looked at the sky with fear in their faces. An old woman walked out and shouted, "Fellow cultivators of Hofun, what is the meaning of this?" The war god shrine's Yongsan gently moved his body and appeared on top of the light screen. His expression was plain as he grabbed with his right hand. The light screen immediately cracked under the pressure and shattered. The old woman's pupils shrank. She turned around and left without a word. Her body disappeared and reappeared more than 10 kilometers away. However, clouds gathered before her in the shape of young senator. He looked at her with a cold gaze and waved his hand at the old woman without a word. The old woman let out a roar as she hit her head and her nascent soul came out. The moment her nascent soul appeared, her body was disintegrated by a destructive force. The old woman was frightened. She was only at the early stage of nascent soul, while her opponent was clearly at the peak of the mid-stage of nascent soul. There were only 3 people at this cultivation level in Xianwu. She didn't even have the heart to resist. She only wanted to survive this. Yang Sun let out a snort and shouted, "You won't be able to run." Ignoring Yang Sun, the moment the light screen failed, all of the core formation and foundation establishment cultivators of Hofen attacked. They killed everyone they saw, and in the blink of an eye, the entire mountain peak was covered in blood. No one was left alive. This large mountain was now completely occupied by the 4 sections. Tens of thousands of disciples stood on the mountain peak with all of the nascent soul cultivators other than Yang San above them. The war god shrine's ancestor Song's eyes were like lightning. His voice was filled with killing intent as he shouted, "This is a war without right or wrong. If we can't establish a foothold in Xianwu within 3 months, then we must face the fire beasts. The fire beasts aren't scary. What is scary is not having spiritual energy to cultivate." As of today, the war god shrine, evil demon sect, Luhi sect, and corpse sect will become the Hofen Union. Every disciple of the Hofen Union will be gifted a core formation treasure, and every core formation disciple will be gifted a nascent soul treasure. During the war, everything you seize belongs to you. The Union will not take it from you. Disciples, this is war, but I personally want you all to see it as an invasion for survival. A nascent soul cultivator of the Lu, he sect on the side let out a cough and said, "Aside from the treasures, each of you will receive a jade talisman that can be used to record the number of enemies you have killed. Anyone who kills 105th layer chi condensation or higher cultivators, or 10 foundation establishment cultivators will be gifted 10 medium quality spirit stones. Anyone who kills 205th layer chi condensation or higher cultivators, 20 foundation establishment cultivators, or 1 core formation cultivator will be rewarded 10 bottles of spirit pills." A very skinny and old man walked out of the Lu He Sek section. He was wearing a black robe and his face was filled with wrinkles. His eyes were dull, as if his soul wasn't there. His eyes turned and then he said, "Whoever kills the most enemies each month will be given a distance heaven pill." The moment the distant heaven pill was mentioned, Wang Lin noticed that all of the surrounding cultivators became tense and their breaths became ragged. There was some information about the distant heaven pill in Ma Liang's memory. There were no more than 30 of these pills in Hofun, and it could be considered one of the top pills in Hofun because it could increase one's chance of forming their core. If someone who just formed their core consumes it, then they would immediately enter the early stage of core formation and stabilize. The key ingredient had long gone extinct. These 30 or so pills were carefully preserved from over 1,000 years ago. After that, 5,000 cultivators were split into teams, each with their own mission. Wang Lin was among them. The teams were to spread out and kill any cultivator they saw. The nascent soul cultivators would also be around to help deal with enemy nascent soul cultivators. Wang Lin was assigned to the 8th Squad of the 10th Brigade. There was a total of 30 people in the 8th Squad, all from various sections. It contained 5 foundation establishment cultivators, while the rest were 13th or 14th layer chi condensation cultivators. The person leading them was a core formation cultivator from the evil demon sect. For some reason, Wang Lin was the only person from the war god shrine in his squad. Their mission was to help the 10th Brigade take control of a medium-sized spirit vein. As a foundation establishment cultivator of the war god shrine, Wang Lin received a core formation treasure. This treasure wasn't very strong. It could be used many times, so the quality of each attack was low. It would not be inappropriate to say it was quite weak. Before he left, Feng Luan ordered someone to call Wang Lin over. Feng Wuan stood at the window of a beautiful loft looking over Ho Fun. After a long time, she threw out a piece of jade and said, Hong Er said that you were extremely powerful in the foreign battleground, so why is your cultivation level only mid-stage foundation establishment? Wang Lin caught the jade. After sweeping it with his divine sense, his expression became strange. This jade contained a small portion of a map. It included about 7 or 8 countries north of Ho Fun. It even showed the rank of each country and what products they were known for. After pondering a little, his eyes lit up. He was able to guess the hidden meaning behind her words. Feng Wuan waved her hand and said, There are a total of 3 pieces to this map. If you can kill 50 foundation establishment cultivators, I'll give you the second piece. If by the end of the war you can kill 150 or more foundation establishment cultivators, I'll give you the last piece. Wang Lin left without saying a word. He understood what Feng Wuan wanted. There was no such thing as charity in this world, only unfair exchanges. In comparison to the other nascent soul cultivators in Ho Fun, this Feng Lu was at least quite sympathetic. Because of the matter with Zhou Zihong, she dealt with the matter of him possessing Ma Liang's body. As for the map, her intentions were clear. If Wang Lin had the ability, he could have the map, but if he didn't, then he couldn't blame anyone if he were to die on the battlefield. Wang Lin originally didn't intend to get mixed up in this war, but now he had other plans. The map was only one reason. That distance heaven pill was the main reason. A pill that could increase the chance of his core forming was something he must have. According to his plans, he already had a high chance of forming his core once he created his 3 cold cores, but there was still a chance of failure. Wang Lin was really anticipating reaching the core formation stage. Once he successfully forms his core, he will be the #1 cultivator below the nascent soul stage. Thus, he won't allow any mistakes to be made. With the distance heaven pill and the underworld ascension method, he was 80% confident in forming his core. Thinking about this, his eyes released a powerful killing intent. The invasion team from the Ho Fun Union spread out on the second day. 10 nascent soul cultivators circled the area. The moment an enemy nascent soul cultivator appears, they will immediately teleport over. A team of 30 cultivators flew north on their flying swords and stopped above a desolate mountain. An ordinary-looking old man, whose eyes would occasionally reveal powerful killing intent, proudly said, The cultivators of the 10th Brigade have already began their attack on the people around the spirit vein. I believe they will have reinforcements coming, so our job is to stop anyone from passing this 500-kilometer area. All of you, spread out and immediately report to me if you find anything. With that, the old man sat down on the ground and closed his eyes. This old man, Zhang Zili, was the captain of the 8th Squad, an early-stage core formation cultivator from the evil demon sect. He only cared about the 5 foundation establishment cultivators. The rest weren't worth his attention. Wang Lin took one step and flew far into the distance. He landed on top of a canopy and began to cultivate. As for the rest of the team, they all spread out to look for places to cultivate. Soon it was completely silent in the area aside from the sound of breathing. Zhang Zili opened his eyes and looked at his surroundings with contempt. He was very dissatisfied with being assigned to this place. In his mind, he should be in the main army, attacking the enemy's sections. If that was the case, there would be enough targets for him, but now he was assigned to this place where there wasn't even any guarantee that there would be any reinforcements for them to stop. Time slowly passed. Suddenly, Wang Lin opened his eyes. He looked into the distance and sneered. At this moment, Zhang Zili also noticed the change and stood up. He looked into the distance and saw more than 10 flying swords coming this way. He licked his lips and spat out a black light. The moment the black light appeared, it turned into a pair of scissors. He waved his hand and the scissors flew out. He let out an insidious smile and shouted, "Kill!" With that, he took a step and his body shot out like a sword. The rest of the 8th Squad flew into the air to form a blockade. The two sides didn't waste any time talking. The moment they saw each other, they attacked. The 15 or so cultivators of Xianwu were all foundation establishment cultivators, so when they saw Zhou Zili, 8 of them placed down a very strange sword formation and surrounded Zhou Zili. Suddenly, Zhou Zili was trapped inside the formation, unable to escape. This caused him to curse loudly. The remaining 7 people began their battle with the 8th Squad. Wang Lin's eyes turned cold. He didn't have any time to waste as he had to get the map and distance heaven pill. At this moment his body moved and he shot out his flying sword. Like lightning, the sword went through a Foundation Establishment cultivator's chest, causing blood to spray everywhere. His G-Realm Divine Sense spread out, and the remaining 6 Foundation Establishment cultivators' eyes immediately dimmed. Then his flying sword quickly stabbed through their chests. From an outsider's point of view, these 7 Foundation Establishment cultivators died to Wang Lin's sword. Little did they know that these cultivators' souls had been destroyed. The moment the 7 Foundation Establishment cultivators died, both sides were completely startled. Whether it was the 8 cultivators surrounding Zhou Zili, or the rest of the 8th squad, they all had their gazes locked onto Wang Lin. That killer flying sword was currently floating around Wang Lin, releasing a very cold aura. The faces of the 8 people surrounding Zhou Zili immediately turned pale. One of them quickly shouted, "Retreat!" Shortly after, the 8 of them quickly retreated and tried desperately to escape. Zhou Zili looked at Wang Lin and revealed a hint of dread. He wasn't confident he could kill 7 Foundation Establishment cultivators in an instant like that. He believed that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level to look like a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. He secretly cursed but suddenly thought that this idea was really good. Once the enemy drops their guard, it would create great opportunities. But none of those things were important right now. Those 8 Foundation Establishment cultivators were able to use some kind of formation to trap him. This was a bit too embarrassing, especially when it happened in front of his own team. Zhou Zili's face was gloomy as he charged out to chase them. Just as he was about to catch up, the 8 cultivators used some strange technique that made white gas come out of their bodies. The white gas surrounded their legs and made their speed increase by 1-fold. Zhou Zili sneered. He formed a seal with both of his hands and pressed it on his chest. Suddenly, he spat out a golden core that was emitting thick spiritual energy. After pointing with his finger, the golden core shot out and quickly caught up to the 8 Foundation Establishment cultivators. The golden core smashed into 3 of them before returning to him. The 3 who were hit coughed out blood and fell from the sky. The remaining 5 didn't even bat an eye as they pushed their bodies to the limit to escape. Zhou Zili let out an angry roar just as the bodies of the 5 that escaped suddenly went limp and fell from the sky. Zhang Zili suddenly became very cautious as he saw Wang Lin approaching from the distance. After seeing this, his expression quickly changed. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Wang Lin's voice. "There are no less than 100 cultivators coming from behind us." With that, he passed by Zhou Zili's body and disappeared into the distance. At the same moment, Zhou Zili also noticed more than 100 flying swords in the distance. He turned around to leave and saw that Wang Lin had already disappeared. He couldn't help but secretly curse. The rest of the 8th squad saw that things were going south and retreated toward the spirit vein. After Wang Lin flew far away, he made sure no one was around before entering the ground with the earth escape technique and moved south. He had killed 12 Foundation Establishment cultivators just now, so he only needed 38 more to get the second piece of the map. This would be very difficult if he traveled with his teammates. Although it wouldn't be as safe, he would need to move alone if he wished to get enough kills to get the distant heaven pill. Hundreds of flying swords flew by toward the spirit vein. Wang Lin stared at them with a cold gaze and followed them. The flying swords were fast, but the earth escape technique was even faster. Wang Lin trailed them from a distance as the 100-plus cultivators flew across the sky and arrived at the location of the spirit vein. There were powerful spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the many holes on the ground. There were limbs all over the place and a strong stench of blood covered the area. The moment the 100 cultivators arrived, countless cultivators from Hofen appeared and the battle began. At the same time, 8 rays of light charged in and a powerful aura surrounded the area. Wang Lin's eyes squinted. Those 8 were all nascent soul cultivators. The moment they came close, they were targeted by the patrolling nascent soul cultivators of Hofan. Nascent soul cultivators from both sides began fighting. The earth shook and the sky changed colors. Shortly after, 100 more teams appeared in the distance and joined this battle. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. After looking for a while, his G-Realm Divine Sense shot out from the ground and charged into the battlefield. A Foundation Establishment disciple of Xian Wu, had just killed a 15th layer disciple of Ho Fan. Just as he was about to attack again, a red light flashed past him. He felt like his head was hit with a giant hammer and lost consciousness. His soul was destroyed without any resistance and he fell from the sky. 8 Foundation Establishment Cultivators of XIAN Wu used a sword formation to trap a core formation cultivator of Ho Fan, but after a red light flashed by, the 8 of them trembled and their faces froze. They felt their souls being stirred into a mess and lose their shapes as their bodies fell from the sky. The trapped core formation cultivator was startled, but the current situation didn't give him time to think as he charged toward the enemies. After a pseudo-core formation cultivator of XIAN, Wu killed several cultivators of the same level with the help of a nascent soul rank flying sword. He grabbed the neck of a female early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. He ripped off her clothes, revealing her pink pocket. She let out a scream which sounded very weak in this messy battle. The pseudo-core formation cultivator licked his lips. His eyes revealed an evil look as he quickly backed up with the female cultivator in his hand. However, a red light flashed by him and his body trembled. He let go of the female cultivator and his body fell from the sky. After he died, not only did his flying sword not stop, it charged toward the ground. Just as it got near the ground, a hand came out, grabbed the sword and retreated back into the ground. As more and more Foundation Establishment cultivators from XIAN Wu fell from the sky for seemingly no reason, the cultivators of XIAN Wu began to pay close attention to this matter. A purple-robed core formation cultivator from XIAN Wu stared at the ground and pointed with his finger. He used some unknown method to send out a message. Then, 10 late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators charged toward that direction. Wang Lin's expression was calm. He turned around to leave at a leisurely pace using the Earth Escape technique. One of the 10 cultivators held a compass and chased after Wang Lin. After moving more than 10 kilometers, Wang Lin stopped and sent out his G realm. Before Foundation Establishment cultivators, Wang Lin was king, with full control over their lives and deaths. The 10 of them didn't even have time to react as their souls were destroyed. The current Wang Lin no longer had the naive nature or the kind heart of a village boy. He would now kill anyone who dared to get in his way. There was no right or wrong on the battlefield, only life and death. If he had a sliver of pity, then the person to die would be him. Along with the power that the G realm had brought him, it also quietly changed his nature. The G realm focused on the extremes. If the user planned to walk the path of good, then he would be a hero of the generation who would fight all evil. If one walked the path of evil, then that person would definitely be a demon king, evil enough to even cause the demonic cultivators to fear him and be worthy of the title of demon king. Under the influence of the G realm, it was impossible to have a personality that switched between good and evil. Wang Lin, with his honest personality, wanted to become an immortal hero and create a righteous path to honor his ancestors. Unfortunately, Situnan's appearance caused his personality to slowly change, which eventually led to disaster. What family was there to honor when his family had been wiped out? The G realm caused his personality to change. Since he couldn't become a hero of his generation, then he would become a demon king. Wang Lin's eyes were emotionless as he collected the bags of holding without even looking at the bodies. He returned to the ground and headed toward a different part of the battlefield, but soon he came out again. He looked at the battlefield, then took out a few spirit stones, formed a formation, and threw the 10 bodies inside it. Each body exploded into a bloody pulp before being absorbed by the formation. When the last body exploded, Wang Lin bit the tip of his finger and flicked a drop of blood onto a spirit stone. Suddenly, a sliver of purple smoke came out of the formation and circled it once. The purple smoke disappeared along with the spirit stones. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't notice any difference. After finishing all of that, Wang Lin sank back into the ground and returned to the battlefield. The battle had become even more tense as everyone was engaged in the fight. The battle between the nascent soul cultivators also became more intense, forcing the rest of the cultivators to avoid them. Just at this moment, Foundation Establishment cultivators of XIAN Wu started to mysteriously fall from the sky. Their bodies became bloody messes as they hit the ground. As more and more Foundation Establishment cultivators of XIAN Wu died due to mysterious circumstances, the cultivators of XIAN Wu panicked. The cultivators of Ho Fan took this opportunity to attack. The purple-robed middle-aged man who had sent the 10 Foundation establishment cultivators to kill Wang Lin frowned. His eyes swept the ground like lightning before locking onto a spot on the ground. He pointed at the location and an early-stage core formation cultivator charged out without a word. The moment the core formation cultivator charged over, Wang Lin quickly escaped. The core formation cultivator sneered as he slammed his hand into the ground. A huge handprint appeared on the ground, forcing Wang Lin to come out. Wang Lin came out from underground and quickly ran toward the formation he had set up. The core formation cultivator revealed a mocking smile. He believed that Wang Lin was only able to kill so many Foundation establishment cultivators because he was using a powerful magic treasure. He thought that with a bit of caution he could easily kill Wang Lin. With that in mind, he waved his hand and a golden awl appeared before him. It paused for a moment before lunging toward Wang Lin. The awl's speed was too quick. It created ripples in the air as it traveled. Wang Lin didn't even turn his head as he threw out the treasure passed out by Ho Fuan. The treasure turned into a silver fist and attacked the awl. The moment they collided, the awl spun even faster and pierced through the silver fist. The awl dimmed, but it didn't slow down. It continued to chase Wang Lin. Wang Lin was calm. As the awl caught up to him, he jumped into the ground again. He activated the earth escape technique to move a few dozen meters before coming out again. Wang Lin did this several times before arriving at the formation he had laid down. The core formation cultivator casually caught up. His eyes were filled with disdain as he shouted, "You little rat! Do you have no other ability besides ambushing people?" Wang Lin didn't say a word. He charged through the formation without pausing. After going past it, he stopped and turned around to see the core formation cultivator above the formation. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he shouted, "Open!" The moment he shouted that word, purple smoke came out of the formation and trapped the core formation cultivator inside. If someone were to look from a distance, they would be unable to see what was going on through the thick purple smoke. Wang Lin sat down cross-legged and sneered as he threw out the treasure Yang's son had gifted him. Suddenly, a ring of energy came out from the treasure and surrounded Wang Lin. The awl hit the ring of energy, but it only caused it to ripple slightly. Wang Lin didn't even pay attention to the awl as he stared at the purple smoke and took out his flying sword. After he touched the sword, red smoke escaped from it and the devil appeared. The devil stared at the purple smoke with greed in his eyes. He wanted to go devour the person inside, but he was hesitant because of Wang Lin. Wang Lin took a deep breath and closed his eyes without a word. Rays of red light came together to form a red cloud, which charged out of Wang Lin's consciousness. This was the first time the G realm had gone all out and left Wang Lin's body. The moment the devil saw the red cloud, his face became filled with fear and he stepped off to the side. The red cloud immediately turned into a circle and circled the devil once before dragging it into the purple smoke. The core formation cultivator sat cross-legged inside the formation with a dark expression on his face. There was a gourd floating around the cultivator. It was slowly absorbing the purple smoke. This was a very vicious formation called Heaven-Devouring Demon Formation. The key ingredients were the bodies of cultivators to use as the base of the formation. Wang Lin used 10 Foundation establishment cultivators to set up this formation, so it wasn't too big of a deal to trap a core formation cultivator for a while. If he had the bodies of core formation cultivators, then he would only need 5 to kill any mid-stage or lower core formation cultivator. But this formation had a high requirement for the bodies. He had to have killed the people himself, making this formation very inconvenient to use. The moment Wang Lin's G-Realm Divine Sense entered the purple cage, the core formation cultivator noticed that something was off and opened his eyes. Wang Lin quickly charged into the core formation cultivator's consciousness with the devil, while completely ignoring the gourd. Inside the core formation cultivator's consciousness, the cultivator's soul took the form of a giant and angrily roared at Wang Lin. The G-Realm Divine Sense activated its full power against the cultivator's soul. Wang Lin commanded the red cloud to send out countless bolts of red lightning to attack the core formation cultivator's soul. The giant revealed a painful expression and his body shrank. He quickly waved his hand and a chunk of red lightning was split in half. Shortly after, the red cloud turned into more red lightning bolts and once again charged toward the giant. The giant's body became smaller and smaller, but his fists became more and more deadly. Every time he punched, a large number of red lightning bolts were destroyed. With Wang Lin's cultivation level, he could barely handle early-stage core formation cultivators. If he were at the pseudo-core formation stage, it would be much easier for him. But Wang Lin was not a reckless person. Why would he take a fight he only had a chance of winning? As the fight reached its peak, the devil received an order from Wang Lin and reluctantly attacked. The giant panicked. He immediately hit the devil with his hand and the devil shattered into pieces. The giant let out a sigh of relief before panic filled his face again. He saw the devil reappear on his hand. The devil began taking large bites out of his soul. No matter how hard the giant swung his arm around, the devil clung onto him like it was part of his body. Eventually, the giant gave up on fighting the red lightning and used his other hand to constantly smash the devil. Every strike would cause the devil's body to dim a bit, but the devil not only never let go, it began to devour even faster. The truth was the devil was also in a pretty sorry state. If he were to let go now, Wang Lin would surely kill him. If he let go, he would die, but if he held on, there would be a chance for him to survive. If he could devour this core formation cultivator, there would be a chance for him to become powerful enough to deal with Wang Lin. Once he deals with Wang Lin, he will be free to do as he pleases. With that idea in mind, the devil became determined and started to devour even faster. It can be said that the devil focused all of his power on devouring. The giant began to weaken. His strikes became weaker and weaker. His giant body rapidly shrank until it became a smaller golden soul, which was devoured by the devil. The devil revealed a look of ecstasy as he attempted to quickly devour this soul, but the red cloud suddenly surrounded the devil. The devil let out frustrated roars as it slowly spat out the core formation cultivator's soul. After having passed through the devil's body, the soul's consciousness had been wiped out. It had become divine sense without an owner. Wang Lin controlled his G realm to leave the collapsing consciousness with the divine sense and return to his body. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes and let out a cold smile. The core formation cultivator's divine sense was floating in his consciousness and being slowly devoured by his G realm. The golden all-attacking Wang Lin lost its glow and fell to the ground. Wang Lin put away the treasure that had been protecting him. He grabbed the all and, after examining it, put it away. Then he walked forward and stopped at a corner of the formation. He dug out a piece of spirit stone from underground and crushed it. The purple smoke dissipated, revealing the corpse of the core formation cultivator. Wang Lin stood next to the corpse. His hand pointed at the corpse's brow and he shouted, "Come out now or I'll immediately kill you." A ray of red light unwillingly came out of the cultivator's head and turned into the shape of the devil. His eyes were filled with hatred, but he soon let out a sigh and obediently returned to the flying sword in Wang Lin's bag of holding. Wang Lin stared at the cultivator's body. Ideas flashed through his mind. He took the cultivator's bag of holding and waved his hand. The body was lit on fire and burned to ashes, but within the ashes there was a shiny golden core. The golden core was rapidly shrinking and its color was becoming dim. It seemed like it was about to disappear. Wang Lin grabbed the golden core and put it into his mouth without any hesitation. He then took a step back and sunk into the ground. Wang Lin sunk more than 1,000 feet into the ground and sat down cross-legged. He began digesting the core. The core immediately dissipated and spiritual energy surged through his body. This spiritual energy was too powerful for Wang Lin's body to handle, so he bled out of his mouth and nose. Wang Lin pointed at his brow and the heaven-defying bead appeared. He grabbed it and disappeared into the heaven-defying bead's space. Inside the heaven-defying space, Wang Lin immediately flew to Situ Nan's nascent soul and began to cultivate. He began bleeding all over his body and his veins began to show through his skin. Wang Lin's hands formed a seal. He entered a weird position where one hand was on his forehead and the other on his stomach. This formed a complete loop. The large amount of spiritual energy rapidly cycled through his body, and with each cycle it would strengthen his body. After 2 months had passed inside the heaven-defying bead, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. However, his eyes were cloudy and it took some time before they became clear again. The jade from the evil demon sect said that one can raise their cultivation level by devouring cores. This seems to be true as long as I follow the seal and chant in the jade. Sadly, I have to use the same cultivation method as them to absorb more than 20% of the core's spiritual energy. Right now, I can only absorb 10%. Wang Lin stood up and checked his cultivation. He secretly thought, I only absorbed 10% of the core's spiritual energy, yet it allowed me to break past the mid-stage of foundation establishment into the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment, putting me at the pseudo-core formation stage. The 2 months in the heaven-defying space were like 10 days outside. Once Wang Lin left the heaven-defying bead, he immediately moved away with the earth escape technique. It was currently late at night. Wang Lin arrived at the scene of the battle. There were many corpses strewn about and the spirit vein had been pulled out of the ground by someone, leaving a bottomless chasm. After checking for a bit, he quickly charged toward the mountain the Hof and Union was at. Once he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he came out of the ground and jumped on his flying sword. There were a lot of cultivators patrolling the area, but once they saw the jade Wang Lin used to record his kill count, none of them stopped him. Wang Lin went straight to one of the side buildings at the mountaintop. This was where Fen Luo had summoned him last time. There are 2 female core formation cultivators cultivating outside. They opened their eyes as he walked toward them, but when they noticed that it was Wang Lin, they closed them again. Wang Lin stood outside the building and loudly said, Disciple greets master. Come inside. Fen Lu's gentle voice came from inside the building. Wang Lin walked in without a word and saw Fen Lu sitting on a stone bench. There was another person beside her. Young senator, he nodded at Wang Lin before turning his gaze back outside and furrowing his brow. Feng Lu's expression seemed tired as she looked at Wang Lin and asked, What is it? Wang Lin didn't say a word, he only threw out the jade. Feng Lu was startled. She hadn't checked the jade yet, only Wang Lin. After her divine sense entered the jade, her expression became strange. Yang Sun took the jade from Feng Lu and scanned it with his divine sense. His face brightened up and he smiled. Not bad. You killed 61 foundation establishment cultivators and 1 core formation cultivator. If you can continue this, then you have a chance of getting the distant heaven pill. But I am very curious. You were only at the mid-stage of foundation establishment before. How did you reach the pseudo-core formation stage so quickly? And even so, it should be almost impossible for you to kill a core formation cultivator. How did you do it? Near the end, his voice became more serious. Wang Lin had already expected these questions before he came here. His expression was calm as he plainly said, that core formation cultivator was already heavily wounded by other people before escaping. I was lucky to catch him off guard and took his core. Then I used the evil demon sex technique to devour his core to reach the pseudo-core formation stage. Devouring technique. Yang Sin's eyes pierced through Wang Lin. He noticed the trace of core spiritual energy inside him. This made him believe Wang Lin's story a bit, and he remained silent. Feng Lu shot Wang Lin a meaningful look, then threw the jade back to him. She said, This is the second piece of the map. I'll count that core formation cultivator as 10 foundation establishment cultivators. If you manage to kill 150 foundation establishment cultivators, then you can come to me for the third piece. Wang Lin nodded. He checked the jade with his divine sense and found that it was indeed the map. If he were to combine the 2 maps, then he would have a clear understanding of Hofan's surroundings. Hofan bordered the Sea of Devils. According to the map, there was no Zhao around Hofan. According to the description on the map, there was another continent on the other side of the Sea of Devils. He believed that on the third piece there would be some information on that other continent. There was also a detailed description of the Sea of Devils, but Wang Lin didn't pay much attention to it as he withdrew his divine sense. Yang Sun looked at Wang Lin in a favorable light and said, The cultivators of Xianwu have gathered together for a big fight. If you want to get credit, then this will be your best chance. Wang Lin was about to speak when a scream suddenly came from outside. Yang Sun and Feng Lu immediately disappeared as they charged outside. Wang Lin quickly walked out and saw a nascent soul that had many wounds. It was leaking spiritual energy everywhere. The nascent soul said, Fellow cultivators, the country sealing array has been broken. The fire beasts are on their way. Wang Lin's expression became unsettled as the country sealing array being broken was very bad news for him. Once those fire beasts get out, their first target will be him. The thought of the fire beasts chasing him made Wang Lin's scalp go numb. He immediately made up his mind. He had to get the map no matter what, and it didn't seem like he could wait until the end of the month for the distant heaven pill. Thinking of this, Wang Lin's brow furrowed. The last piece of the map was in Feng Luan's hands, and he didn't have enough time to kill the required cultivators. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he made a decision. He immediately found Lin Tao and Yang Xiong with his divine sense, and then quietly moved away before flying toward Yang Xiong. Yang Xiong was one of the disciples responsible for patrolling the area. He didn't dare to relax at all as he vigilantly kept watch, but his eyes couldn't help but move toward the top of the mountain. When that broken nascent soul flew past him, he had a feeling that something big was about to happen. Yang Xiong let out a sigh as he suppressed the heavy feeling in his heart. Just as he was about to go patrol the northwest area, he suddenly felt something, so he flew into the dense forest in the north. After he entered the dense forest, he looked around and respectfully said, "Yang Xiong greets master." Wang Lin came out of a tree. He examined Yang Xiong before asking, "Where is Zhong Zihong?" Yang Xiong was suspicious, but he didn't dare say anything. He pondered for a bit before replying, "If I remember correctly, junior sister Zhong should be in the 3rd squad of the 4th Army, but I don't know the exact details." Wang Lin looked at Yang Xiong and said, "I have already returned Zhong Zihong's soul essence blood." Yang Xiong's body shook and his breathing became rough, but he quickly calmed himself down. He raised his head and looked at Wang Lin. His mouth opened as if he wanted to say something. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he said, "If you can make Zhong Zihong come here, then I'll return your soul essence blood to you." Yang Xiong's eyes became bloodshot and his breathing became rough again. After a long time he whispered, "Is what master is saying true?" Wang Lin frowned but still nodded. Without a word, Yang Xiong took out a piece of jade and placed it on his forehead. Wang Lin only saw the jade gleam a few times before being thrown. Yang Xiong then disappeared into the distance. After 1 hour, the sound of flying swords came from the distance and a very beautiful woman with red lips, white skin, and a curvy figure arrived. This person was Zhong Zihong. She put away her flying sword, and just as she was about to speak, she saw Wang Lin beside Yang Xiong, making her face immediately go pale. Wang Lin waved his hand and Yang Xiong's soul essence blood flew toward Yang Xiong. He felt very shameful as he caught it and left without daring to look at Zhong Zihong. Zhong Zihong's face was pale and she bit her red lip. After a long time she talked with a chill on her back. "Ancestor Feng Luan is my mother. When she saw me, she immediately noticed that something was off, so..." Wang Lin shook his head. He sighed and said, "This matter is over, so there's no need to mention it again. Zhong Zihong, I would like you to help me with something." Zhong Zihong was startled and asked, "Is it the map?" Wang Lin nodded and said, "My home is very far away. It would be impossible to find it without a map." Zhong Zihong looked at Wang Lin with a very complex gaze and said, "Help me kill 2 people." Wang Lin raised his brow. "What cultivation level?" Zhong Zihong's eyes became cold as she answered, "One is at the mid-stage of foundation establishment and the other is at the peak of late-stage foundation establishment." "Okay." Wang Lin didn't hesitate to agree. "You should know the 2 of them. One of them is Ma Yang's precious junior apprentice sister, Su Si. The other is Zhou, who is always fooling around with her. You don't have to kill them now, you can kill them when you leave. As for the map, I'll bring it to you within 1 hour." After Zhong Zihong finished speaking, she looked at Wang Lin meaningfully before leaving on her flying sword. "Ma Yang, this is the last time I'm helping you." Zhong Zihong revealed a melancholy look as she slowly flew away. Wang Lin meaningfully looked at Zhong Zihong's back before spreading out his divine sense to find Su Si. He left a sliver of his G realm on her before, so it was very easy to find her. After finding Su Si's location, Wang Lin took a step forward and went underground. Half an hour later, Wang Lin resurfaced. He sat down cross-legged, waiting for Zhong Zihong's return. There was a strange look on his face as when he found Su Si and Zhou. The 2 of them were in a remote area of the mountain. They were having fun with their 2 white bodies colliding and creating popping sounds. Wang Lin took one look and placed a sliver of divine sense that would activate in half a month on Zhou before quietly leaving. After waiting in the dense forest for a while, the person that came wasn't Zhong Zihong, but a female qi condensation disciple. She threw a piece of jade into the forest and ran away without even looking back. Wang Lin's right hand moved and the jade quickly flew into it. He checked the jade with his divine sense before putting it away. Then he took a deep breath, entered the ground and quickly left. After the 3 pieces of the map were fused, Wang Lin could tell that Hofin belonged to the Zhouwu continent. A place called the Sea of Devils was between here and the continent Zhao was on. If he wanted to return to Zhao, he would have to cross this Sea of Devils, which was rumored to be filled with demonic cultivators. The map contained only some details of the Sea of Devils. It only said that it was a very dangerous place, and that even nascent soul cultivators didn't dare to casually enter. And the map even pointed out that the Sea of Devils wasn't a real sea anymore. Back in ancient times, the sea was evaporated by a very powerful cultivator to kill his enemy. Since then, the entire Sea of Devils was filled with fog, so it's more accurate to say that it's a fog sea. The creatures living in the Sea of Devils have adapted to survive in this fog too. At the same time, because of the special fog of the Sea of Devils, the fog becomes seawater for 1 month out of the year. Due to the harsh landscape, resources are very lacking, there are very few spirit veins, and killing people is very common. All of this caused the Sea of Devils to become a gathering point for demonic cultivators. Even criminals from high-ranking cultivation countries being hunted by their countries escape to the Sea of Devils. The name Sea of Devils comes from this. As for its real name, no one even remembers it. The Sea of Devils is a very messy and chaotic place. Very few non-demonic cultivators are willing to enter that place. Wang Lin digested the information in the jade as he was using the earth escape technique. He suddenly stopped when his divine sense spread out from the ground and saw 2 flying swords flying across the sky. The one in front was a girl whose face was very flustered and pale. Her body seemed like it was ready to fall over. This girl was as beautiful, graceful, and elegant as a fairy. She was Li Muan from the Lu He sect who he met once. The person chasing her was a young man with slicked hair. Not only was the young man not in a rush as he casually chased her, but he also loudly teased, "Little darling, I have killed everyone else in your 13-man squad. Where can you possibly run to?" Li Muan remained silent as she bit her lower lip and flew forward. The young man waved his hand. Li Muan let out a scream as a large piece of the clothes on her back was torn off, revealing her white and tender skin. The young man let out a laugh as he sniffed the ripped piece of cloth. His eyes lit up. Wang Lin only looked for a bit before withdrawing his gaze. That young man's cultivation level was very high, at the mid-stage of core formation. He doesn't want any trouble as his goal is to leave before the fire beasts arrive. He only met Li Muan once, so there was no real reason to risk his life to save her. But just at this moment, the young man's eyes lit up and he threw a black light toward where Wang Lin was hiding. "There is a junior who knows the earth escape technique hiding here. Since we met, you might as well stay." Wang Lin let out a sigh and jumped out the moment the black light hit the ground. Li Muan noticed a change, so she turned around. She revealed a joyous expression and shouted, "It's you, senior apprentice brother. Please save me." With that, her flying sword turned and arrived next to Wang Lin in an instant. The young man let out a laugh. He waved his hand, making 8 flying swords appear. They all shot toward Wang Lin and Li Muan. The flying swords closed in, but most of them were targeting Wang Lin. Only one sword was targeting Li Muan, and it wasn't trying to kill her. Clearly, the young man wanted to keep her alive. Wang Lin secretly let out a sigh as he grabbed Li Muan's arm and dangerously dodged the flying swords. He pulled her underground and activated the earth escape technique to run away. The earth escape technique was really a technique of the ancient cultivation world, even if this was just an inferior branch of it. Even when Wang Lin was carrying another person, his speed barely dropped. The youth controlled the flying swords to attack the ground. He showed a mocking smile as the shock waves transferred underground, but as Wang Lin's speed became faster and faster, the youth's expression became more serious and he focused on chasing. Although he was a core formation cultivator, he wasn't specialized in speed. If Wang Lin was using a normal flying sword of a foundation establishment cultivator, it would be nothing, but against the specialized earth escape technique, his weakness was exposed. The more he chased, the bigger the gap between him and Wang Lin became. Wang Lin's face was gloomy as he looked back at Li Muan with a merciless expression. Li Muan's heart began to pound. She knew that she had dragged him down with her. She bit her lower lip and quickly said, "That person is the Xianwu's double cultivation sex elder. He somehow knew that I had a distant heaven pill. That's why he disregarded his status and came after me." Without waiting for her to finish speaking, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, "You have a distant heaven pill?" Wang Lin's gaze caused Li Muan to become very frightened. She was a very clever person, or else she wouldn't have risked saying the 3 words distant heaven pill to get him to save her. After all, they were both from Hofan, so falling in his hands would be better than falling in the hands of that core formation cultivator. Thinking about this, she immediately said, "I don't have a finished distance heaven pill, only a semi-complete product." Her eyes began to turn red as she saw Wang Lin's unkind gaze and quickly explained, "None of the Lu He sex distance heaven pills are complete. They are all in a semi-complete state. However, it would only take half an hour of refining to make it a complete product. This is because once the distance heaven pill is complete, there is no way to store it. It must be consumed within 1 year. Otherwise its effectiveness will drastically decrease." Wang Lin's mind quickly turned. He originally planned on going around Hofan to get into the Sea of Devils, but now he grabbed Li Muan's soft little hand and charged toward Hofan's border. Wang Lin had 2 options right now. One was to return to the Hofan Union. There were many powerful cultivators there, and the moment they arrived they would be safe. However, that core formation young man might not even let them get that far. If Li Muan changes her mind once they get to safety, then it would be very hard for him to get the distance heaven pill. The second option was to go to the border of Hofan. Considering how long it had been since the country sealing barrier broke, the fire beasts should be on their way. Wang Lin didn't hesitate to choose the second option. The young man kept chasing. Seeing his prey getting farther and farther away, he let out an angry grunt and took out a crystal leaf from his bag of holding. The young man looked at the leaf for a bit before throwing it out. The leaf immediately grew longer and wider until it was 10 feet long. The young man jumped on the leaf, then his hand formed a seal and he shouted, "Quick!" The moment he said that word, the leaf flew forward at an incredible speed. It was so fast that it left an afterimage that took a while to dissipate. The distance between the 2 parties began to lessen and Li Muan's face became even more pale. She didn't dare to think of what would happen if the young man caught up. She was angry that Wang Lin didn't go toward the Hofan Union, but she only dared to kept it inside as she didn't want to show her face in fear of Wang Lin leaving her behind. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he carefully calculated the time. It had been about 3 hours since the news of the country sealing array breaking arrived. Adding the time it took for the nascent soul to use all its power to teleport here and the time after the fire beasts broke the array, the fire beasts must have arrived at the border of Xianwu by now. As he was calculating, he detected a red cloud rolling in from the distance with his divine sense. When the young man saw the red cloud, he immediately stopped and gave up the chase. With his position, he knew the reason Hofan was invading Xianwu. The reason was that the fire beasts were forming that red cloud. The herd of fire beasts was very fast and Wang Lin's earth escape technique was also very fast, so when they passed each other, a huge gap was created. Li Muan's heart pounded rapidly as she watched the red cloud. She finally calmed down a bit when she noticed that they moving farther away from it. However, she suddenly realized something and shouted, "Quickly stop! We need to go back and report it. Aren't the fire beasts supposed to be sealed by the country sealing array?" Wang Lin looked at her coldly and said, "They already know, there is no need for you to worry." Just then, a powerful divine sense spread out and suddenly locked onto Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin realized that something was wrong, so he took out a bottle of spiritual liquid and drank it all. He throttled the earth escape technique to 120% of its normal speed, and quickly escaped with Li Muan. The fire beasts that had already flown far away suddenly stopped. They all let out roars, then turned around and started chasing after Wang Lin. However, the distance between them was very large and Wang Lin's reaction was very quick. Instead of slowing down, he sped up, so even though the fire beasts were chasing, they could only follow far behind and were unable to catch up anytime soon. Li Muan was horrified as she noticed the change, but then she suddenly had a very strange thought. It felt as if the fire beasts weren't out to destroy Hofan but were after this cold youth. The real 5-elemental escape technique is a legendary technique. Not only does it require a large amount of spiritual energy, it also has strict requirements for one's talent. However, what Wang Lin learned was only a branch variant called the Earth Escape technique. Aside from the large spiritual energy consumption, the amount of talent required isn't very high. He could even fine-tune the technique after many uses. Although he hadn't known the technique for long, he had used it a lot since learning it, so now he could use it with ease. As for the spiritual energy consumption, well, to be honest, the last thing Wang Lin was afraid of was the consumption of spiritual energy. Wang Lin continued to use the Earth Escape technique for 3 days straight as he brought Li Muwen across Hofun. The fire beasts chasing him had gotten closer and their roars could now be heard. At the border of Hofun, Wang Lin came out of the ground. He looked at the Sea of Devils, then he turned to Li Muwen, who had a pale and weary face, and asked, "Are you confident you can finish refining the pill before the fire beasts catch up?" At this point, Li Muwen feared Wang Lin from the bottom of her heart. She was now sure that the fire beast's target was the person before her. Why would those fire beasts ignore the Hofun Union and all turn to chase him otherwise? Also, looking at the fire beasts, it was as if they all had some deep hatred for this person. Most importantly, Li Muwen knew a bit about the Earth Escape technique. Unless one reaches the core formation stage, it is impossible for a cultivator to use for it 3 days straight. She became very curious about the liquid Wang Lin always drank whenever he ran low on spiritual energy. Now that she heard Wang Lin's words, her face became even more pale. With how smart Li Muwen was, how could she not realize the hidden meaning in that question? If she could do it, then he might give her a way out, like luring the fire beasts away or something. But if she couldn't, she believed that this cold youth would take away her half-completed Distant Heavens pill and leave her behind. Thinking about it, Li Muwen's body began to tremble. She had seen a lot of cultivators being torn apart by the fire beasts, so she was terrified right now. Wang Lin's brow furrowed. Time was of the essence right now, yet this girl was in a daze. How could he possibly know what was going through her head right now? Li Muwen's guess was a bit off, however. Even if she couldn't finish it now, Wang Lin would have taken the semi-complete product, but he still would have given her a life-saving treasure. Adding on the fact that the fire beasts were after him, she would have had a high chance of survival. Li Muwen's heart trembled when she saw Wang Lin frown. She bit her lower lip and said with a trembling voice, Senior apprentice brother, time is too short for me to produce a complete product, but I can refine pills. I know how to refine almost every pill from the Lu He sect, and I have memorized many ancient recipes. As long as I have the materials, I can refine them." Wang Lin was startled and looked at Li Muwen a few times. Then he saw the red light coming in from the distance and grabbed Li Muwen. He then charged toward the Sea of Devils. Li Muwen didn't know that her words had really tempted Wang Lin. In his eyes, Li Muwen was a walking pill furnace. If he used her properly, his cultivation level would be able to increase greatly. Wang Lin obtained this idea from Sun Yat-sei's life journal. The Sea of Devils was very large, and it was basically a big hole. It wouldn't be wrong to call the Sea of Devils a giant basin. Only this basin had many mountain ranges within it. There weren't any trees, but there were many strange plants. If one were to check their ancestry, they would find that these plants would trace all the way back to ancient sea plant life. The season Wang Lin entered the Sea of Devils was when the fog was the thickest. Shortly after, the fog will turn into water, and then 1 month later, all of the water will become fog again. Li Muwen was dragged into the thick fog by Wang Lin. Her charming body trembled as she bit her lower lip and whispered, Senior apprentice brother, this is the Sea of Devils." Wang Lin coldly replied, "I know." Li Muwen secretly let out a sigh and no longer said a word. The moment they entered the Sea of Devils, slivers of Ing energy entered their bodies. This caused Wang Lin to become alert. He didn't expect to finding spiritual energy here. This made him very happy. Compared to Hofun, the Sea of Devils was like a piece of ice, creating a vast contrast with Hofun. This was the first time Li Muwen had come to the Sea of Devils. Various stories she had heard about the Sea of Devils entered her mind, causing her face to become ever paler than it was before. Wang Lin stopped in the middle of the fog. The fog in this spot wasn't too thick, so the border of Hofun was visible. He saw the red cloud closing in from the distance, But once the fire beasts arrived at the border, none of them crossed it. They could only roar at Wang Lin. Gradually, more and more fire beasts gathered, but not one fire beast entered the Sea of Devils. It was as if there was a giant crevice in the way, and they didn't want to cross it. After a long time, one fire beast finally charged out, but the moment it touched the fog, it let out a miserable scream. Its body quickly shrank and its skin went from white to red to gray. This scene looked exactly like throwing a hot coal into ice water. After seeing this, Wang Lin's heart calmed down a bit. According to his plan, even if the fire beasts charged in, the beasts and cultivators from here would stop them, and the Sea of Devils was the size of several thousand Ho Fens. Although the map did not show it, it clearly pointed out the difference in size. With how large the Sea of Devils was, if Wang Lin were to hide here, it would be hard for the fire beasts to find him. Wang Lin's body moved and he grabbed Li Muan, the portable pill furnace, and quickly flew away. His G-realm divine sense spread out. He kept a watchful eye on the surroundings. He had to make a cave and reach the core formation stage as soon as possible. Only after reaching the core formation stage and becoming the #1 cultivator below the nascent soul stage would he have any confidence in surviving in the Sea of Devils.